Good morning, everyone. As we begin today's meeting, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. Good morning, and welcome to Brampton's Committee of Council. I believe most members are present today with the exception of Councillor Vicente is on other municipal business.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, Councillor Vicente is on other municipal business. All other members are either present in person or online, save and except for Deputy Mayor Singh.
Okay. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Do any members wish to add any business to today's meeting? Mayor Brown?
Yes, I have two items to add to the agenda today. The first is an announcement for Easter Seals fundraiser. Charlene Mike from Easter Seals Ontario will be here today just to share some thanks to the effort the city was behind. The second announcement is there was a motion from Councillor Tour and Brar on the conflict in the Middle East. If we could add that to the agenda.
Okay.
So through you, Mr. Chair, that'll be proposed announcement 5.5 and proposed discussion item from the mayor under corporate services section 12.3.2.
Okay. Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just, if possible, because Councillor Vicente is away today and I know has some questions regarding this particular report, I'd like to refer the report related to the Bovaird House and the audit, the internal audit related to the Bovaird House.
Okay, so that's 12.2.1 and 12.2.2?
Just 12.2.1. I have questions related to 12.2.2, and we'll hold that when the time comes. But 12.2.1, Councillor Vicente has questions about the audit itself. So I'd like to refer that to council next week.
Okay. Okay. So that's just 12.2.1.
Correct. Thank you.
To November 22nd council meeting. There is, I believe, Deputy Mayor saying you wanted to add an enclosed item?
Yes, I did, and the first half.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it would be a discussion item at the request of Deputy Mayor Singh regarding closed session business at the November 20th council workshop. It'll be identified as 12.3.3.
Okay. I would also like to add an announcement for co-op students in Public Works.
So that will be proposed announcement 5.6. And through you, Mr. Chair, just a few other agenda updates. At the request of staff, item 15.2, which is a closed session item on today's agenda, is to be withdrawn, and the matter for which that item was intended will be presented to a future meeting. So 15.2 will be withdrawn. And in regards to discussion item 9.3.1 on today's agenda, a discussion item at the request of Councillor Santos regarding how the City of Brampton is taking action to end violence against women. There is a supplementary staff presentation on that item that will be identified as 9.1.1 to be presented with that discussion item during community services section.
Okay. Is there any other additions? No? Okay, so we have a motion moved by Councillor Power to approve the agenda. All those in favor? The motion carries. Declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. Moving on. Committee, as part of our consent motion process, I will read each agenda item that is subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. I'll start reading the relevant agenda items, and members can identify any items they wish to be held for debate. 2.1, staff report for Brampton Parking Plan. That'll be held for a presentation and delegations. 8.2.2, staff report regarding options for dedicated breastfeeding spaces in city
Hold,
facilities.
please.
That's a hold from
Councilor Tour.
Councillor Tour. Uh, 8.2.3, staff report to request to begin procurement for the 2024 road resurfacing projects. That's going to be held for Councillor Paleshi. 8.4.1, correspondence from Anthony Mello, Brampton residents, regarding the road resurfacing. Consent. 10.2.1, staff report regarding animal services bylaw updates. Consent. 10.2.2, staff report regarding supplementary report, updates and amendments to the new Provincial Towing and Storage Safety and Enforcement Act, the TSSEA. It's going to be held for Councillor Paleshi. Item 12.2.1 was referred. 12.2.2, staff report regarding the status of the historic Bovaird House Management Agreement. It is going to be held for Councillor Santos. 15.1, an open meeting exception under section 2392C and K of the Municipal Act 2001. Hold. Councillor Paleshi. And 15.2 was withdrawn. The clerk will now summarize those items held by members for consideration.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for simplicity, I'll just identify the two items for consideration for the consent motion. Receipt of 8.4.1, correspondence from Anthony Mello regarding road resurfacing, and 10.2.1, a staff report on animal services bylaw updates.
Great. I have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi to approve the consent motion. All those in favor? The motion carries. Brings us to announcements. Our next item is 5.1, an announcement regarding the Brampton On Stage January to May 2024 season launch. Joining us today is Jocelyn Johnson, the manager of the Performing Arts, and Stephen Schipper, Executive Artistic Director, Performing Arts Cultural Services, Community Services. Councillor Santos is the sponsor for this announcement. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor Brown, councillors, senior leadership, and all Brampton staff. On behalf of all our team in Performing Arts, please accept these heartfelt thanks for your support and guidance, which inspires and sustains our work on behalf of the artists and audiences of Brampton, the GTA, and beyond. Aligned with our city's 50th birthday celebration, this season from January to May 2024 is Brampton focused. Brampton On Stage will present 70 shows, more than half of which feature Brampton artists, including 12 This is Brampton curators and 8 co-presentations with Brampton-based arts organizations. Of the guest presentations across our venues, more than half feature Brampton-based organizations. Along with showcasing Brampton to the world, we also welcome Canadian stars like Tegan and Sarah, and international stars like Eva Noblezada to shine for Bramptonians. And sometimes, we even bring Bramptonians who have become Canadian and international stars, like Brampton Arts Walk of Fame recipient Ruby Kaur, back home to grace our stage in Brampton. It's now my pleasure to introduce Manager of Performing Arts, Jocelyn Johnston, to say a few words.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning. Brampton On Stage continues to champion Brampton's diverse creative talent to build an inspiring performing arts community with presentations across the city at 4 outstanding venues: the Rose Main Stage and Studio, LBP, and Cyril Clark. Tickets for the January to May 2024 shows go on sale for Brampton on Stage Encore members tomorrow, Thursday, November 16th at noon, and public on sale begins this Friday, November 17th at noon. It's not too late to be a member and be at the front of the queue. For only $10 a year, an Encore membership can be purchased online, in person, or by phone. Not only will you get first access for this season launch, but also the next one in May. And for any shows that might be added throughout the year. Hint, hint, shows added throughout the year. All while earning points to redeem for free tickets in the future. I want to thank you again for your ongoing support of the arts in Brampton. We look forward to seeing you at the theaters soon.
Thank you so much. Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Steve and Jocelyn and the Performing Arts team for this incredible presentation of the next upcoming season next year. I was obviously a huge fan of performing arts and saw Hamlet starring Ahad Raza Mir, famous Pakistani actor, and the closing night was jammed, and it was such an incredible and moving performance. And for those who missed it, I feel sorry for you because it was really amazing. And for those who think that Shakespeare is not their thing, think again, because what Brampton produced was incredible. And on February the 10th, at the eve of Remembrance Day, I brought my son, 13 years old, my niece, 11, and my other niece, 8 years old, to Studio 2 to watch Jake's Gift, which is a story about a World War II veteran and his return to Juno Beach. It was performed by one actress, 3 different roles. She played the role of a 10-year-old girl, the role of an 80-year-old man, and the role of a middle-aged woman in France on one stage. No sound effects, no huge things, just quality acting and a quality script. And my nieces and my son, who was in a room full of all very significantly older people, my niece said to me, "Why did you take me here? There are no young people here in this play." And I was concerned that they wouldn't get the attention, that they wouldn't pay attention to the whole show. And I tell you, I have never watched my son and my nieces pay so much attention to a play or a movie or their phone in the same way that they paid attention to Jake's Gift. And that is the quality of performance that we're bringing to the stage at the City of Brampton. And now looking at, just flipping through the pages, Bhangra and Beyond, Toronto Symphony Orchestra, April 13th, 2024 at 2 p.m. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And you have a famous musician who's Filipino, who's blessing us with this stage as well in February. Choir is coming. I'll be participating in that for sure this year. And so thank you. And I do encourage colleagues, city staff, as well as our residents to support the local artists in Brampton who will represent 50% of the stage at the Rose in this upcoming season. And thank you for taking the time to understand the importance of including that diversity of our city in the programming. Congratulations, looking forward to it.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Next announcement is 5.2, an announcement regarding the 5th anniversary celebration of the Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst, November 20, 2023 at 5 p.m. at the Rose Theatre. And joining us today is Charles Finley, Executive Director of Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst at the Toronto Metropolitan University. Councillor Tour is the sponsor for this announcement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of council. I am delighted to announce that this coming Monday, November 20th, the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst at Toronto Metropolitan University will proudly celebrate its 5th anniversary as a beacon of training, innovation, and collaboration in cybersecurity, putting Brampton at the center of cybersecurity training and innovation in Canada. 5 years ago, the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst embarked on an extraordinary journey to contribute to a world-class cybersecurity sector in Brampton and in Canada, and has made significant strides in empowering individuals and businesses to seize the opportunities and tackle the challenges of cybersecurity. Some statistics: more than 7,000 people have directly benefited from Catalyst's groundbreaking programs over the last 5 years, equipping them with new cyber skills and empowering them to build thriving cybersecurity careers, advance new ventures in digital security, and contribute to a more cybersecure Canada and Brampton. Over 500 businesses have been fueled by the Catalyst, hiring world-class diverse talent from its training programs, strengthening their own cybersecurity posture through tabletop exercises at our range and in our workshops, and scaling up their operations through the Catalyst Cyber Accelerator. Over 800 jobs have been created or filled by the Cyber Secure Catalyst. More than 1,000 women, girls, and non-binary individuals have been empowered by these programs, and the Catalyst community now comprises more than 10,000 experts, mentors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and program participants. We could not be more proud to be a part of the Brampton community, positioning Brampton at the center of cybersecurity nationally and internationally. And I want to express my thanks to this council and to all city staff who have participated in this extraordinary journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Councillor Tour?
Good morning, Charles. Thank you for that announcement. We couldn't be more proud that we have a council right now that is fully supportive of the work that you guys do. Congratulations on the 5th-year anniversary. I know the celebration is going to be big. You have a lot of special guests coming, so everybody that's watching or at the meeting right now, request everybody to be at the celebrations. Delegations coming into our city, and then every single time they've stopped by the Catalyst or they've stopped by the cyber range, people are left in awe. So we're doing some amazing work here, and we hope to support you in the future as well.
Thank you. Our next announcement is, sorry, you want to speak? Oh, we're going to.
Congratulations on this. It's absolutely incredible. These are the jobs of the future, and you put Brampton on the map for being the center for cybersecurity in our country. And I know I was speaking to Nav Baines yesterday, and it was very poetic that he was industry minister to announce this, and he'll be there on Monday night with Rogers in his new capacity. And so it's going to be special, and I would encourage anyone in the city to celebrate this milestone with us on Monday.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Usually it's warm, but we're going to oblige. Councillor Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for obliging, because I remember in February of 2019 that important motion that was brought forward and somewhat controversial at the time, but we made it happen at the council, and 5 years later we're seeing the success of now what is the Cybersecure Catalyst. I personally cannot attend the celebrations on Monday because I will be in Ottawa for FCM. However, we're going to have, I'll have a video ready to celebrate the anniversary itself. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Our next item is 5.3, an announcement regarding the gift of giving back, November 20 to 23, 2003, and Week of Generosity, November 28 to December 1st. Joining us today, we have Katie Cleland and Dan Gibson from Regeneration Outreach Community on behalf of Ted Brown, the CEO of Regeneration, and Glenn McIntyre, the General Manager of Brampton Hockey, and Councillor Power is the sponsor for this announcement. Welcome.
Good morning, committee. We would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you on behalf of Regeneration, and thank Councillor Rod Power for supporting this announcement. We are here to cordially invite you to participate in and help us to promote 2 upcoming events at Regeneration Outreach Community. Next slide, please. Next week, November 20th to 22nd, is the Brampton Hockey Gift of Giving Back event at our warehouse, 253 Queen Street East. This event has been happening annually in Brampton since 2015, and we are grateful for the continued support of our Brampton hockey teams who have been out in the community collecting donations on our behalf. If you happen to see any of the teams out and about, be sure to take a selfie with them, give them a donation, and say thank you to them for their support of food security here in Brampton. Next slide. And next slide. The following week, November 28th to December 1st, is Regeneration's very first Week of Generosity event. We have an aspirational goal of bringing in 100,000 pounds of food that will get us through the holiday season and hopefully keep us stocked further through January when donations are typically fewer. It is also our hope to raise at least $50,000 in cash that will be used to bolster our operational funds for this calendar year. We ask that Council support this event by perhaps hosting your own food drive and by promoting the event through your networks to help us reach more potential supporters of the event. Our team will be ready to accept donations anytime between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. during the week, beginning with Giving Tuesday, allowing donors an opportunity to see our space and learn more about what we do to combat food insecurity in our community. If a group would like to schedule a visit, there is a Calendly link on our website, or they are welcome to send me an email at the address on the poster that was sent to you. As you know, the number of residents experiencing food insecurity in Brampton has reached staggering levels. Our food bank served over 900 families last week alone, and the number gets higher each week. So thank you for standing with us as stakeholders in food security for our city, and we hope to see each of you at our location at 253 Queen Street East during the Week of Generosity. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Power.
Thank you, and through the chair, great to see you, Dan and Katie. I know Ted was at the region last week and did a presentation to council at the region there, and just, I guess there was a shortfall of $150,000 is where you guys are at right now, and I know you guys do tremendous work in the community, whether it be at the Regen store or even just, I have a personal story with Frankie Flowers. I connect with him quite often, but it's important that the community comes out and supports the food banks that we have, especially Regeneration, because there is a food insecurity here in Brampton, and there's a lot of people struggling, and it'll be great to come out and support. I know I will be, and I believe all of us will be as well. So thank you very much for your delegation.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next item is 5.4, an announcement regarding the Brampton Fire Fit 2023. Joining us today, we have Chief Boys, as well as firefighters Jennifer Gould, Matthew Webster, Catherine Ross, Jason Woodford, Danny Palmer, Ryan Dozeman, and Anthony Birch. Councillor Paleshi is the sponsor for this announcement.
Through the chair, good morning, Mayor Brown, members of council. Very proud to present our gold medal winning Fire Fit team that's with us here today. We do have Catherine Ross, Jason Woodford, Danny Palmer, Jen Gould, and Matt Webster. And Brampton Fire, if you're probably familiar, has a long and distinguished history at the Fire Fit Championships from the mid-90s when Peter Reed and the team started winning the national championships, which you would see on TSN. And proud to say this success continued in 23 with more medal winning performances both at the regional level, the national level, and the world championship level. And we have Katie Ross, the fastest woman in the world champion on our department. And Peter's going to put up a video here in one moment, but I think the video really tells a great story about the effort, the dedication, and just the strength required to do this sport. I did try it many years ago. It was nowhere near as successful as they all were, but it's incredible. And Peter, if you could play the video, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, it's when I first witnessed my first Fire Fit Challenge, I think it was in 2010 at right down here at downtown Brampton, and just seeing the faces of the firefighters, that the pain and the suffering that you were going through, and it's truly unbelievable that you put yourselves through that. But you know, when you look at it, firefighters in Brampton especially, and I always say we have the best firefighters in the world by far. You put your lives on risk every day when you're on the job, and it truly means so much to, you know, this council to have some champions here at Brampton Fire. We talk a lot, and I reference mental health and support that you know, this council certainly supports for our firefighters, and we know that the best thing for your mental health is fitness, and so you're truly leaders in that department, and you know, I have to say my hat goes off to each and every one of you, and I want to be able to say to our residents one day that we're going to host another international Fire Fit Challenge right here in Brampton. And so that's my request to staff, to say, let's get on that and see what we can do. Like always, we always support our firefighters, and if there's any other way that we can, you know, support you in the future and with this challenge, then please let us know. Can we grab a photo, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely. Just prior to that, I just want to say thanks as a son of a firefighter. I appreciate the invitation for getting out there and seeing what it's actually about. But I remember putting my dad's gear on, and I could barely do that. You know? So I'm clearly not built to be a fireman. That's probably why I'm sitting here. But congratulations. It's great that we say, you know, we have the best firefighters in the world, but now we have medals to prove it as well. So thanks for everything you do for our community, and congratulations. If council would oblige to take a photo.
Seems to be good in a lobster trap.
The by Mayor Brown for the City of Brampton for the Celebrity Hockey Classic event, Easter Seals.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. We have Charlene Mike here today from Easter Seals, Ontario. She wanted to come and say thank you to the City of Brampton for our annual campaign to help these kids with special needs. And I believe we have a video that we can play before Charlene shares her remarks.
Sure.
Hopefully our audio works this time.
I didn't send one in.
Can we cue the DJ, please?
Okay.
Picture, obviously we raise money for the kids. It's expensive, the equipment, sending them to camps too. So when I see all the videos of the kids going to camp and that having smiles on their face makes me just happy to see that.
What this is all about is making sure that as many kids in our community we can rally behind that need a little bit of extra love and support.
When you look around your neighborhood and you see kids with wheelchairs, walkers, lifts, none of that doesn't happen without the support of the people of the community of Brampton.
The opportunity that they give these kids, especially with that summer camp, it brings a smile to everybody's face every time they see it.
Events like this go to raise funds to help provide mobility and accessibility equipment for children with physical disabilities.
To know that so many good things are being done, if we can contribute one little portion just to put a smile on these kids' faces and help the campers out, I think that's what it's all about.
We're on the ice for a great cause, Easter Seals. Unbelievable what this organization does for kids.
The guys always show up, have a lot of fun, the people are raising the money, make it fun, but it's an awesome cause.
Children with disabilities have a place in the city of Brampton. They don't have to pay anything to go rent the ice, to go, if they need rentals in skates or anything like that, we'll cover it. Anybody that has the ability to donate to Easter Seals, please do so.
I support everyone staying physically active, including young people with physical disabilities. And that's why it's such an honor every single year to support Easter Seals with this fun, exciting hockey tournament.
Help support Easter Seals and make a difference to a child's life.
Well, that was nice. Thank you. First of all, I apologize for being late. I did bring cookies and treats for when you have your break, because I was always taught to bring cookies and treats if you're going to be late. So I couldn't count on the traffic this morning. And there's a plaque for you to hang as well. But it was important for me to come today, so soon after our tournament, to talk about what your council and what your community is doing for our kids. We're not the shiny charity. We're not the big charity. We're your grassroots charity. We've been around for 100 years, and we've supported kids with physical disabilities for 100 years. But the thing I notice most about Brampton, the community of Brampton, the people in Brampton, they truly are seeing the ability and disability. They're truly looking at our kids, and they're looking at our families, and they're saying, how can we help? How can we make a difference? And it's not too often that I come into a place for an event and I actually feel the cultures, the community, the counselors, the vendors, the store people, that we feel everybody behind us. And that's what our families feel from all of you. I know that you're going to help make sure that Shamil becomes a lawyer, because we all know that's what he wants to do. And he wants to do that from a wheelchair. We also know that there's kids in the community of Brampton that want to be doctors, they want to be lawyers, they want to be teachers. And I know for our families in the community of Brampton, that with all of you guys behind them, they're going to make it. So I just wanted to come here today and thank you all so much, Patrick Brown, Mayor Brown, for always supporting our kids, and for the council here for, again, not a lot of people actually see the ability and disability. One of our young girls who graduated this year from high school, Hulaine, she lives in your community, and I went to her graduation, and on her cap, the top of it said, written, see the ability and disability. And I said, Hulaine, why have you got that written on your cap? She said, because I'm in a wheelchair, and that way people will know they can read, because everybody always seems to look down at me because I'm in a chair. But now I want you to look up at me. So that was a powerful message from a young girl that's in your community. And so for us on Easter Seals, our families and our kids in your community, I can't thank you guys enough for seeing the ability and disability, and for helping the kids in your community that quite often get left behind, know that they're not being left behind when they live in Brampton. They know that Brampton City Council, the mayor, and the community is behind them. So thank you all very, very much. And eat your treats.
Thank you. Mayor Brown.
If I could just say briefly, Charlie, thank you for coming today. We're so honored to rally behind this fundraiser. We know the incredible work that Easter Seals does in the community. We take for granted that we get to be physically active, and we want to make sure everyone has that ability to be healthy, to be active, to enjoy life. And just to acknowledge, Brampton Fire stepped up to put a team in and fundraise. The Peel Police did. It was a whole effort around the community. Councillor Pleshy, I think, was the top fundraiser for our team 4 years in a row. Councillor Keenan, despite probably not having enough sleep the night before, because it was a pretty great Easter Seal celebration the night before.
I heard.
Played in all the games. Councillor Santos always gets voluntold to be a coach. So it was a great day, and hopefully we can continue to grow this fundraiser and help more children. But we're responding, Charlene, to your passion. This is your idea, so thank you for bringing this to the city of Brampton.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if I may, I don't play hockey. As if the video kept rolling, you'd probably see that. But I do eat cookies, so I'll be happy to have some of those. I play twice a year, and this is one that I play in, and love to do it. I jump on their team because Mayor Brown's obviously really good, and Paleshi knows how to raise money. So
you're gonna win.
But thank you so much for what you do. Your organization is absolutely amazing. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming in today.
Thank all of you.
Okay, next is the announcement that I added, which is 5.6. So it's an announcement for some co-op students. So I want to take a moment to welcome and acknowledge the co-op students that are here. They're in the middle of their co-op term with the Capital Works team. They've joined us from different colleges and universities around the GTA. So I hope that you're enjoying your time here. And they're here at council today just to see how it works. And we're lucky to have co-op students, but I also want you guys to know that you're lucky to be learning for some of the greatest employees and the greatest municipality that there ever was. So if council would oblige, I would like to get a photo, if that's okay. Good, yeah. Delegations. Next is item 6.1, a delegation from Omar, the Executive Director of International Fashion Festival for the Cause and International Fashion Festival Canada, regarding the request for support from the city for the following events: the Brampton Fashion Festival and International Fashion Festival Canada. Is Omar online?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Omar, you are in the session now. You can unmute your mic and address.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. My name is Omar Kamar. To start with, if we can play the video, which explains the little intro.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, there is a video to play, so I'm just going to set that up right now.
Welcome to the most exciting fashion event in the heart of Brampton.
Hi everyone, welcome to Home World International Fashion Festival happening here in Canada, Brampton, Ontario.
IFFC has been a very successful event in the past years, and we have seen some great designers and great fashion.
Get ready for a style revolution like never before. For the past 2 years, we have successfully organized IFFC event right here in Brampton. This achievement follows a decade of hosting the same event in Mississauga and Toronto.
We want to bring some glamour, a little bit of edge to the fashion side of things. Yes, so it's going to be exciting.
The IFFC event is more than just fashion, it's a celebration of diversity, community, and cultural exchange.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing?
But that's not all. We are proud to unveil the Brampton Fashion Festival. This one-of-a-kind event is designed for Brampton's own residents and vendors, in collaboration with International Fashion for Cause, a non-profit organization.
An event like this is a ton of fun, but it's also an opportunity to showcase the talent that exists in Brampton and here in the GTA.
Our mission is clear: to celebrate and elevate the city's local lifestyle and fashion industries, showcasing their incredible products and services. We believe this event will empower local businesses, boost tourism, and honor our city's rich culture tapestry.
So we can start the presentation. Yeah.
Today, we seek your official support for the IFFC and the Brampton Fashion Festival. We are committed to working hand in hand with the city to address any concern or requirements that may arise during the planning and execution of these events.
Omar, do you wish to continue? We have a minute
Yes,
30
please.
left.
Let's jump to the second slide. First of all, thank you so much for all the time and giving us the opportunity. Primarily, we are just suggesting 2 events. One is already being held in Brampton from last couple of years, followed by a decade being held in different cities of GTA. We have brought this project in Brampton and getting indirect support from the city in last couple of years, but now we suggest we're seeing all the potential and all the interest and business opportunities to propose a Brampton-based fashion festival called Brampton Fashion Festival, which will offer and feature only Brampton-based vendors and small businesses and home industries. Focusing on Brampton's residents and businesses. So if we can jump on the next slide, please. Basically, pretty much is the diversity and global fashion trends featuring international designs and brands. This is for the International Fashion Festival Canada. This is international. We want to bring international designers, brands, different corporate businesses to come to Brampton City and explore the business opportunities and bring in the economical growth in lifestyle and fashion industry. Can we jump into the next slide, please?
So Omar, you are out of time. Let's ask if you could wrap it up, please.
Yeah, that's what I'm just, yes, sure. Actually, you know what? We can just jump into the last slide because we have already explained it through the video. This is the proposed collaboration opportunities where we can access from the city, venue partnerships or promotional amplifications, logistical and administrative support, financial sponsorship or support opportunities, community engagement, collaborations, guidance on permits and regulatory assistance.
Thank you. So we do have a speaker, Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. First of all, the event I was blown away by. I know it was the turnout. I've never seen the Queen's Manor that packed. I know Councillor Power, Councillor Brar, Councillor Santos were actively involved in this, as I was as well, as you can see by Joseph in the Technicolor outfit. But it was very impressive, and the fact that you had businesses and participants from around the world coming. I know there was a business person from Latvia I met, a business person from all these different countries that were there brought to Brampton. And so I found this event really exciting. I think arts and culture and fashion is an economic driver. And so, Omar, I want to thank you for bringing this to Brampton. I know you could have taken it anywhere in Toronto, but you have a passion for the city that you live in. What I'm going to suggest is that we've got a process for this in Brampton through the Advanced Brampton Fund, and we can have staff follow up after this today to let you know how to apply, what the rules are. But we support a number of events each year through this fund that brings tourism and economic impact and embraces culture in our community. And so what you mentioned in terms of collaboration on communications and access to city spaces, that's all part of this. So we'd love to rally behind this. We'd love to see this become even bigger. I don't think there's a banquet hall big enough for you if you make this bigger than it already is. But I know all the members of council that were there were blown away by it. So well done. It was an extraordinary event. My only criticism would be that the deputy mayor, who's the local councillor, did not participate in the fashion show. I thought he would have been great on the runway, but we can work on that for next year. He has his own version of Blue Steel that I have seen, and it is fantastic. So, Omar, I'll ask you to include him next year, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we're looking forward to explore more avenues for the next event.
Thank you. And Mayor Brown, just for clarification, you're not referring this delegation to staff. You're just kind of
Just want to clarify, I don't think it needs a motion, just for staff to follow up on the process we have for Advanced Brampton, but we could refer it to staff.
No, it's fine. Okay, so I have a motion moved by Mayor Brown to receive the delegation. All those in favor? Motion carries. Next item is 6.2 delegations regarding item 82.1 Brampton Parking Plan. 1 second, because we're going to do the presentation first, and then we're going to have the delegations come. As this delegation relates to the presentation 8.1.1 and staff report item 8.2.1 on today's agenda, in accordance with the procedure bylaw, we'll receive the staff presentation first before receiving the delegations. Then we can deal with the staff report and the delegations later in the agenda order. So we're going to do the presentation. And presenting today is Malik, Policy Planner, Downtown Revitalize. Oh my goodness, I can't say it. There you go. Planning, Building, and Growth Management. Well, oh, you're doing it. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. So
Morning.
Andrea Oliveira, Director for Downtown Revitalization. So I'm going to set up our presentation today for the Brampton Plan. So the Brampton Plan, we've been working on it for a couple of years now, but it is certainly a tool to get us to where we want to go with achieving our mobility vision, to really focus on pedestrians, cyclists, and transit users, and to really reduce the reliance on single occupant vehicles going forward. This plan is also really important for our downtown because just of the vast array of parking supply that we have in the downtown. There's a great opportunity to optimize that parking supply, as well as really take this as an opportunity to shift again.
Hi, can we get a...
Oops. Sorry. So really to shift everyone's modes to more sustainable modes of transportation and to achieve our more pedestrian-oriented, walkable, transit-oriented community in the downtown. So with that, I'm just going to pass it over to Jeffrey Humble, who is our Manager of Policy, Programs, and Implementation in the Integrated City Planning Department.
Good morning, Chair and members of Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Just before I do get started, I would like to acknowledge Malik Majid, who is in the chambers today and did shepherd this plan over the past 2 years, including public engagement, working with consultants and the various departments in the city. So next slide, please. So the Brampton Parking Plan, this has been a 2+ year effort. It's included quite extensive public engagement with stakeholders. We had meetings and online surveys. A lot of the messages we heard was with regards to, on the one hand, parking constraints in lower density residential areas, and the need for more flexibility in some of the intensification areas, as well as the need for improved parking enforcement across the city. Some of the key solutions or suggestions in the plan are continuing to remove the minimum parking requirements in the intensification areas. Council made some of these changes, I think, going back to 2019, 2020. And also looking at potentially imposing maximum parking requirements along some of our intensification corridors. That being said, residential parking programs in some of the lower residential areas, which we'll talk about, and this is really about, as Andrea alluded to, shifting towards more sustainable modes of transportation. I think what may take part of center stage today is the perspective of the Downtown Brampton Business Improvement Association. Going back to last year, they had some concerns certainly about the rate increases, and it is recommended in the report that, not recommended but suggested, there is the opportunity to defer that. And we've had further meetings with Carrie Percival and the board, and thanks to Erica Henry Jackman, who's stepped in as the acting executive administrator. So that input, I think, has been reflected in some subsequent discussions with council. And lastly, survey truck parking. This is a big issue in Brampton, given the logistics industry and proximity to the airport. So not just amongst the truck drivers themselves, but residential areas which are impacted by truck parking. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about phase 1, key policy directions. Next slide. So the big move, as Andrea alluded to, this is really coming out of the Brampton 2040 vision and that council direction to shift towards transit and towards active modes of transportation. We've also got the major transit stationary work, which is now embedded into our official plan, and so that really sets the framework. So the framework is quite strong now in Brampton. We have more than a dozen MTSAs, the downtown being the biggest and the key hub in the city. And it's important to note that parking is kind of one of those maybe not so exciting but somewhat controversial areas, but it is very important to drive growth, drive transportation. So the way that it's approached can reduce housing costs. Given the land costs in Brampton, surface parking lots are not the best use of land. So it provides opportunities to improve the public realm, reduce congestion, and then all those other kind of subsequent or adjacencies in terms of GHG emissions and so on, and making that shift towards more sustainable modes of transportation. Next slide, please. So the key policy directions, again, is one is in the intensification areas, to shift towards those establishment of minimums and imposing, in some cases, even maximum parking requirements. And in the other areas of the city, would be looking to use parking as a tool to increase affordable housing options. We know in the single family areas, going from 1 to 2 unit dwellings, council's recently gone to 3 unit dwellings. We now have provincial direction to go to 4 units, so that certainly imposes some constraints and impacts on those neighborhoods, and parking needs to be considered in that regard. And then in terms of truck parking, this is really quite a big strategy that we will need to undertake subsequent the adoption of the plan, and that's looking at things like commuter parking lots, off-peak use of parking in large venues, truck parking permits, and really trying to find industrial and commercial areas that are underutilized, potentially brownfield sites that have easy highway access. And providing these things will alleviate some of the burdens that are experienced in some of the residential areas right now, and provide that convenience for the trucking industry in Brampton, which is, as I said, very important. Next slide, please. So some of the phase 2 key findings and recommendations. Next slide. So this is, I think, the heart of the discussion with the Downtown Business Association, and this is a fee increase that's recommended. So currently the rates in the downtown are $2 per hour, $9 per day, and $44 per month. These rates have not been increased commensurately with transit increases. Currently the transit is $4.50 per trip. So part of this recommendation is to address kind of the market demand and shift towards more of that kind of true cost of parking and its impacts on the city. We are nowhere close to cost recovery for our public parking structures and lots in Brampton. But more importantly is starting to make that shift with all this major transit investment that's coming to the downtown, the BRT, the LRT, the all-day GO service, all the active transportation with Riverwalk and eventually the Orangeville line. We want to start to set the framework to begin to make that shift to influence the modal split of the automobile versus transit and walking and cycling. We do note that given the prior discussions with the DBA going back early in the year, the council may wish to defer given some of the impacts resulting from the Queen and Main Street infrastructure works. And this presentation was finalized, I believe, Thursday or Friday. We had some follow-up discussions with the DBIA, so there may be some opportunities to look at actually shifting that out a little bit further. I trust you hear that from the delegation presentation to follow. And one of the important elements to consider as part of this is the establishment of a parking benefit district, and that is basically utilizing a portion of funds from parking revenues towards public realm improvements, for example. It could be towards improving signage, improving walkability, and that could be done in harmony and engagement with the BIA, and they seem to be receptive and like this concept. Next slide, please. Currently, we did some further in-depth analysis into the downtown because it is such an important area, and we know we've got some major investments coming with the CFI, and there's other, Rogers, for example, there's other parties that have expressed interest. But we have a capacity for about 900 available spaces, and the vacancy rates are high. They were high pre-COVID in the 57% range, and post-COVID, with more people working from home, those rates are even higher in the 37% range, whereas a good, healthy occupancy is above 80–85%. So this has the opportunity to generate some additional revenue between $800 and $1.1 million. We know there's some requests for residents to use this. It's staff's, or at least policy's position that that should be more focused on business opportunities, for example, office space and other opportunities that may come to the downtown. Next slide, please. Parking technology and enforcement. So enforcement is a big issue across the city. It takes up quite a bit of time, and we've had extensive consultation with Jean-Pierre and his group in enforcement. Peter Bryson and Shane Keys are here to answer any detailed questions. But part of the framework here is about establishing priorities in service requests and complaints. So there's a lot of complaints that come through, but really it's about to deal effectively with this across the city. It's about how do you kind of segment that geographically and deal with the really priority safety and traffic impact offenses, and then tackle the neighborhoods more on a kind of a strategic basis. And part of that is also building a system to track and map the complaints. So working perhaps to digitize some of this information, creating heat maps so that enforcement has that information handily available, and they can go out in the direction of council or senior staff to undertake that work. More enforcement staff is identified, although perhaps that would go hand in hand with some of the pilots, which we'll talk about next. And using the technology, so license plate recognition technology. So this is, I understand that they can explain it better than I, but it's technology that would be in the vehicle, can read license plates and pull that information up instantly, which makes their operations much better. That being said, additional investment into that area can improve that through pay-by-plate system, and digital parking permits can also be established. So these are all investments that could be made to improve efficiencies and enforcement. Next slide, please. So one of the big areas, as I mentioned, is in these lower residential areas, and I suppose even in some of the intensification areas, is the on-street permit parking. So this is quite an endeavor for Brampton if we were to undertake some of this, and what's suggested is perhaps we would look at an area of segments of the city, perhaps wards or perhaps more geographic based, and do some feasibility assessments about establishing on-street parking. Some of the constraints you have to imagine are curb cuts, in single family areas, so you've got certain widths to play with. You have to look at seasonality, for example, in winter time and snow clearing and things of that nature. So these would be things that we would want to consider and kind of prepare council for should we go down this route. And then actually establish a pilot program for, let's say, 1 year or 18 months where we actually have that program up and running, and then look at potentially the third phase, which would be establishing it more on a broader citywide basis. And pilots, as council knows, we've gone through a few of them, or are going through some with residential licensing. A lot of it is about education and learning, so educating the public about these changes, and as well as learning from that process to improve it and enhance it. So part of that process may be selection of streets, technical review. We may survey homeowners and then bring that to council for approval to initiate. And certainly some of the considerations may be that we have a minimum percentage of homeowners that would need to return and respond, and then a minimum that would want that actually in their neighborhood. Next slide, please. So there are many components to the parking plan. I believe we have over 45 recommendations. So these are kind of the key major pieces that we wanted to make council aware of in this presentation. We have actually proposed in the 2024 to 2029 budget 1.9 million in terms of capital. That's spread out over those years. And that would allow us to commence some of these feasibility studies, some of these pilot programs, get some software and hardware to start improving operations, some signage costs, and to bring on some additional part-time staff. Operationally speaking, there is a $200,000 figure that's listed here. We did work with finance on this package. And that would be annual operating costs for hardware and software, some merchant processing fees. And this idea of bringing on additional enforcement staff, and this is a snapshot in time, so it's not necessarily that the council adopts this plan and all of these expenses come into play. They would be phased in as we get these programs up and running. And I would say there's opportunity to offset some of these costs depending on the fee increases that are proposed herein, the removal of the 1 hour free parking, and even enforcement staff in terms of ticketing. There's some revenue generation there. Again, that's flexible depending on the timing of how things play. So overall, there's a net expense over the 5 years to get this program kind of fully up and running of about $500,000. And last slide, please. So just in summary, this has been, again, several years in the making. It is maybe parking not the absolutely most exciting thing, but it's absolutely essential to Brampton's future and transportation modes and really making that shift. They are transformative changes. There's a lot of municipalities that are looking to Brampton because we are at the forefront in this thinking. And so many of them are kind of looking to see if this is going to get adopted and what the direction will be. It's recommended that we focus on the high impact areas, and we focus on some of the short-term objectives that are noted herein. And on that note, we're here to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
I think we need to report. Ask the questions. Does anyone have any questions? Sure. Councillor Paleschin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, when we're talking about truck parking, and I know we passed the motion to increase opportunity for truck parking across the city, I guess the complaints that we receive in our office, though, are trucks that are parked overnight, mostly, but sometimes with the truck continuing to run, especially in the wintertime, near residential houses. So when you look at some of the main streets, the Chinguacousy, I'm just, north-south, Chinguacousy, McLaughlin, here Ontario especially, we do have trucks that are parked there, and that we do receive complaints of that truck running constantly or being started up early in the morning. When we're looking at increasing the opportunity for truck parking across the city, can we make sure that it's not going to be near any residential units?
Thank you, Councillor Pleshy. This is one of the areas that I think truck parking is one of those big things that I think requires more in-depth study to figure out exactly how that will work. But I know the plan identifies even parking at like power centers and things like that. And I mean, that's away from residential, but not always away from residential. Yeah. It's not the best, and so I think we need to figure out a multi-pronged solution to it that explores those really troubling situations, makes those better, and then also looks at more substantive investments longer term too. We mentioned some of those potential brownfield sites and employment areas, which again is prime investment land, so you don't want to create sea of truck parking, but you also want to take up some of that capacity and transfer it over. And so part of that, I think, is working with the trucking community. And again, going back to enforcement, perhaps coming down a little harder on some of these situations that we do have that in the neighborhood. But sometimes you have to have a relief valve to complement the enforcement piece of it. So that work would be, if that's one of the priorities in addition to the residential, I think we need to look at providing council schedule upon how we would undertake that work to provide a more fulsome solution.
Yeah, it's not going to be, one thing fits all scenario. I was just thinking while you were speaking, like we're dealing with no truck parking right now in a high employment industrial area because the trucks that are being parked on the road, the buildings that are adjacent can't have their deliveries come in and out. Yeah. And then maybe the opportunity for, that, because it was really when the trucking industry had come to us to ask for the opportunity, it was kind of like a 15-minute sit. Now, if it's a 15-minute during the day, I don't see a problem with that, especially on the mains, the truck routes that are close to residential houses. So it'll be a difficult one, but I think that we can hopefully figure it out as time goes on. The other thing that is mentioned is the 1 hour free parking in the downtown. And is that specifically to the City of Brampton parking facilities as opposed to the on-street?
I believe it's the on-street parking. So it's the same approach that we had pre-pandemic, which included the hour free and then the applicable pricing adjustments.
Okay, so I fully support like a 1 hour free parking for anybody that wants to use the businesses in the downtown in our parking garages. The prime real estate on, the mains though, that I would try and see, working with the BIA and city staff to see, is that prime maybe a 15-minute free where we can get them in and out, into the store and out, as opposed to, if they're there for an hour, people can park at an underground, but.
Yeah, there's going to be limitations as we move forward on Queen and Main Street because with the redesign, we're removing parking for the bike lanes and expanded boulevards. So it'll be more about the adjacencies on the residential streets and how we approach it. Market, Thomas, Wellington, George Street, that it's those streets that will be taking the brunt of the on-street parking going forward.
Okay, good. Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there any more questions? Okay, we'll move on to the delegations. So we have Carrie Percival for the chair of the Downtown BIA, and that will be followed by Brampton resident Sylvia Roberts.
Good morning. I got my team with me, so awesome.
Morning, team.
If I can have the slide up there, Peter, I don't know if you have it. Perfect. Excellent, thank you. So obviously today's delegation is response to the staff report that you just heard. We met with the staff 3 times this past year in regards to the report and feel that the timing's a little off on the suggestions for downtown Brampton, and that the mark has been missed on a few items. Next slide. The Downtown Brampton BIA is in full support of major construction and streetscaping projects in the downtown core, as it is crucial to the revitalization of the area. Despite the inconvenience caused by the construction period, these projects will ultimately benefit both residents and our members, creating a more vibrant and prosperous city. The BIA has been working tirelessly with the city to ensure that business owners are informed and supported during the construction period, while promoting the downtown area as a prime destination for visitors. With unique shopping, restaurants, and cultural attractions, we believe Brampton's downtown is undoubtedly a special place that's worth experience even during construction. Next slide. Limited street parking spaces due to ongoing construction activities have made it difficult for visitors to the downtown area. However, the implementation of paid parking will only add to their inconvenience. It will also discourage potential customers from visiting local businesses, leading to a decrease in revenues from our members. Next slide. We are requesting that council consider the impact of paid parking on a downtown under major construction from multiple angles, including its economical impact on local businesses, its potential intensifying already significant negative impacts of construction activities, and its impact on traffic. During construction, no parking means no customers, as nearby drivable retail alternatives are preferred. I'm a perfect example of that. I have two clubs. I have one downtown Brampton and one at Fisherman Drive. I have people call about which location's closer, and they will probably about 80% choose my north location because they're worried about the parking downtown. And I have to tell them that it's free parking. What do you mean it's free? If there's free we have free parking. So it's encouraging people that live 5 minutes away not to drive 15. Okay, so this is a huge, if we add parking to this, or paid parking, those people are definitely not coming. We're gonna be losing. Our club moved here in '96 because it was 3 hours free for our parents to shop, to go to local restaurants as their kids were in karate. Next slide. Over the past 36 months, the downtown business community has faced unprecedented hardships, resulting in numerous closures and a significant loss of retail sales. To help attract visitors and support local businesses, offering free parking has been a constant marketing message. Implementing this parking plan would be devastating. In the report, there's also talk about turnover. We can't even discuss turnover until we fill these streets. We need to get the people in. We need to get the intensification that we're talking about here first before we even talk about implementing anything beyond that. We encourage the council to consider providing free 2-hour parking, evening parking after 6 p.m., and weekend parking, similar to what was prior to COVID. These measures will not only address the concerns of customers and business owners, but also help to mitigate the negative impact from the construction. Next slide. The transformation of downtown Brampton is a crucial step towards creating a more dynamic and prosperous community for business and residents alike. These changes will help create a vibrant hub of activity, attracting more investment and opportunities for growth. Although the intensification of the downtown and the implementation of streetscaping plan are yet to happen, it is certain that the transformation will pave way for a brighter future for all. But this should be a phased approach once construction is complete, from the water main construction as well as streetscaping construction, all construction completed. Next slide. We are excited to be part of the bright future of downtown Brampton and are eager to work together with the city and the community to create a dynamic and well-connected downtown that we can all take pride in. By supporting our proposed free parking strategy during construction, you can help ensure that we remain in business to help usher in this exciting transformation. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to commend the board of the Downtown BIA for enduring and for being so resilient given the construction that's happening and the transformation of the downtown. I know firsthand, because I'm a frequent shopper and spender of the downtown core, that many businesses and business owners have personally shared with me their struggles. And from my perspective as a local councillor, as a councillor, it's so hard because there's only so much you could do because of the construction. Like, it just has to happen. But I've seen the downtown BIA, particularly the board, really step up and despite those challenges, try to find innovative solutions, including one that's this Friday, which is why I want to put my name on the board, which is the Christmas market on Friday night in Diplock Lane. So a question, when is the Christmas market happening?
It's
Or
actually
Saturday?
It's Friday.
Friday, yes.
So, and it's on Main Street.
On Main Street,
Yeah.
sorry.
Main Street South.
Main Street South. And so when we do the tree lighting and Winter Festival, please make sure to stop by the Christmas market on Main Street South, hosted by the downtown BIA. And so on that note, Councillor Keenan, myself, and Councillor Vicente did meet with staff, and when the report comes forward, we will be bringing forward a motion to hopefully address some of the concerns you've shared today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
delegation.
Thank you.
Sylvia Roberts. Our parking expert.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Roberts. May I have extra time? I've submitted a 1,500-word comments on this, and the report itself is 150 pages. So if I could please have some extra time.
How much more?
3 minutes.
Give you 2?
Okay. Hard bargain. All right, so my name is Sylvia Roberts. As you know, I have been talking about parking costs for a while. The mayor may remember in 2020, we had the almost $10 million on renovating the parking garages, which we've been working on. And at that point, I shared, like, no, actually, we do have a report from 2009 for the downtown saying we should raise the rates. And instead of raising it adjusted for inflation, we raised it at less than half of the rate of inflation. If we had been raising it progressively, it would have been much smoother for the businesses, because I can understand why the businesses in the downtown are freaking out at the concept of, so you're telling me we're going to go from $44 to free, and then you're going to be less than 45 days notice and going to raise it to $120. I can understand why they're justifiably confused and freaked out by that, because that is a very sudden transition. As they had mentioned, it's talking about turnover, and that's kind of a boilerplate comment to cities about parking, and it's just not applicable to the downtown because the parking garages aren't full. I know staff talked about how, well, we don't really want to have overnight parking because we want to focus on the businesses. That has been the position for the last 20 years, and I am not seeing a huge amount of employment coming into the downtown. So we can continue to speculate on potential future employment, which may or may not materialize. But we do know we have a number of major residential applications coming to the downtown, and they're very much wanting to build in our downtown. Because we do not have overnight parking, in some cases the developers are having to build an extra $5 or $10 million extra parking that they know they don't need. You know, the one on Nelson West, well, they put in multiple floors of above ground parking, which they plan to convert to office because they don't think they're going to need it, but the fact there's no overnight parking means they have to include it in order for the pro forma to work. So we are literally wasting people's money on the idea that hypothetically we might get tens of thousands of employment jobs in the downtown, but how many thousands of office jobs have materialized in the downtown that aren't directly related to the city in the last 20 years? We cannot continue to bank on hypotheticals. Hypotheticals do not pay the $10 million in fixing the parking costs. We also need to not just have a study telling us we need to do a study, to do a pilot, to do an implementation for the business, for the benefits district. Most stick at 50%. The city can very straightforwardly say, okay, the city gets half of the revenue and the BIA gets half the revenue. There can be negotiations on if they just directly get the cash, or if the city holds the cash and they can direct how it would be used in the downtown, and the city directs the other half. that would make it much easier. So for example, if you're the business area, if you have the revenue coming from that, they can, for example, they can reduce the property taxes on the businesses downtown, which I'm sure would help. They could also work on beautification, because I'm going to be honest, the downtown looks really run down. And I've brought people to the downtown, and the Rose is nice, but the ground in front of it is literally crumbling. We can spend another $1 billion, but as long as the downtown is physically crumbling, it's still going to look bad. So we need to have improvement there. If people are concerned about safety, then maybe the business improvement area will want, hey, we would like the city to provide more security guards in the downtown to help people feel more safe, or put in more lighting. Give them flexibility on that. That helps, gives them agency and a sense of control. We do need to put in the overnight parking, because I know there's some areas, for example, Ward 9, where their transit access isn't very good right now, and people do need to drive to get to work. And we've got joint households, and so 2 parking spots isn't enough. Giving people the opportunity to pay for on-street parking is an appropriate measure to respond to that. It's not permanent, at least until the transit improves. And it should start at a high rate, like $80 a month or more. That will help offset the cost, because if you have cars parked on street, it's going to cause increased snow maintenance, and that money will also help fund more bylaw, which I'm sure if you ask them how much can they do with an extra $3 million for enforcement, they could do quite a bit with that. Or for the downtown beautification, if you ask Kelly, who is very intelligent and competent, and I saw that the Diwali went very well, thank you very much. If you told her, look, we'll have potentially $300,000 to improve the downtown, how would you recommend that we spend it? I'm sure she'd be happy to come up with that report, because I've talked to her. She's thought about this stuff. She cares about this stuff. She's passionate. And I'm sure she'd love the opportunity to present you with ideas for how we can improve the downtown. This report is inadequate. It doesn't fully consider the needs of the downtown, the needs of the city, and the phasing needs to be much more gradual on increasing the parking. I've harped on it for at least 3 years now, but that we should raise it, but we can't just raise it by $80 in 45 days. That's not fair. So my recommendation is increase it by $20 on January 1st, and then another $20 on July 1st, and continue at that until July 2026, and that will give the business owners enough clear time to understand how this is going to work, and additionally to negotiate with the BIA on how the revenue will be spent, because we are burning gigantic sums of money on the parking. It was $10 million to fix it last year, and they're talking about, oh, we're going to need to build potentially a 550-car parking garage, and you look at the rate, and the amount that you're going to be subsidizing it is $8,000 per parking spot per year, which is an absurd sum of money. It would be easier to simply offer every single person, it would be much cheaper to offer every single person who works downtown for the city, we will literally give you a free transit pass to come to downtown, so we don't have to use the parking for staff. That would be much cheaper. Thank you, that's my delegation. The chair is blocking many things I couldn't see.
Moving forward, time's up regardless.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for your delegation. I don't see any questions, so we're going to receive the delegations and the. Oh, Councilor Santos is on. No, that's for what's coming next. I have a motion moved by Councilor Santos to receive the presentation and the delegations, and we're going to move up the report and deal with that at this time, which is 8.2.1. And I will hand that to Councilor Santos. Right? All in favor? Motion carries, sorry. Okay, so now we're dealing with report 8.2.1, the Brampton Parking Plan, and I believe that's what Councilor Santos is on the board for.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And again, as I had said earlier, during the delegation from the BIA, Councilor Keenan, myself, and Councilor Vicente did have a good meeting with staff, either earlier this week or last week. I don't even remember anymore. But it was a good meeting to find an appropriate way forward to address some of the concerns with our downtown core. And I do agree in terms of their perspective, and we did agree that there's been a lot of issues with construction in the downtown impacting many of the small businesses, but also in terms of events in the downtown as well, where we have a lot of events, whether that's at the Rose Theatre or at Garden Square or you name it. I think trying to encourage people during this very difficult good transformational time is important. And so in speaking with staff as well as council colleagues in the downtown core, I'm moving just an amendment to the recommendations in the report to include the following amendment. So that is to eliminate the free hour of parking beginning in January 2027, and depending on the state of the downtown core at that time, a possibility to extend that. Increasing the parking rates beginning in January 2027. I think in originally talking to staff, we were looking at January 2026, but in speaking with my colleagues this morning, we'd like to move it to keep it consistent. And then subsequently, 2028, 2029, a more phased-in approach, and that staff work with the Downtown BIA on the framework regarding the Downtown Parking Benefits District and report back in Q1 of 2025. And so thank you to the staff, thank you to the Downtown BIA, and of course our councillors in the Downtown Core for bringing this amendment forward, and hope that my colleagues will support.
Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So not sure what exactly this means in terms of City Hall and West Tower parking, John Street parking, which I think are some, I don't know if some of those are ours or maybe they're all the regions. But the other Rose Theatre and the other garage. So what essentially does that mean for those parking? Are we going to start charging parking in those facilities if this is approved, or does this stop that until 2027?
Through the chair, through to you, Councillor Paleshi, if your question is towards whether or not staff will be paying for parking if this direction is approved, or is it parking in general in those facilities?
No, parking in general. We have residents that live up the street that park in the underground. We have people that come to City Hall that don't pay for parking. I want to try not to affect the downtown businesses, but I'm not okay with continuing to provide free parking for people that are taking advantage of that.
Yep, that's right. Through the chair, thanks for that clarification, Councillor Paleshi. I'll defer to staff to elaborate on some of the further discussions we have, and we also have staff here from traffic operations who oversee parking to expand on that.
And just in terms of staff, we have something internally that we have with staff to be able to park in City Hall, right?
Not all staff.
Through the chair, could you ask that question again, Councillor? About city staff.
With the original question, with this amendment, does that mean that we're not going to start charging people for parking in our undergrounds until 2027?
Through the chair, that's not a decision for my group to make. It's the
No, with this amendment, if council approves this amendment, it's on the board.
Yes, so it would apply in all the facilities and the on-street parking. That's when we would be starting. So it's a bit of a grace period to accommodate the concerns and needs of the BIA, but also to move us in the right direction, acknowledging the fact that we've undergone some pain with construction, and we're timed to finish up by the end of 2025, and that's why we did note we would be revisiting the free hour parking. We could revisit other things too. The recommendation from the consultants, et cetera, was to sort of to move our vision forward, et cetera, to be on par with other municipalities. This was the best approach, and the approach in our report was the best approach, but to accommodate some of the concerns, the phased approach we felt would best suit the needs of the BIA.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so So as this stands, I can't support it. And the reason I can't support it, not to get into everything about it, but in the past, we've provided the downtown, the BIA with parking tickets for them to be able to provide their customers. So there's one way to satisfy the BIA. In terms of staff, I think we have a parking policy that, provides opportunities for staff to be able to park in our facilities. But with this right now, it will continue to allow the people that, live in the downtown that don't want to park at their house or can't park at their house to park in our facilities. And not to mention the people that use the electric charging stations as well, wherever they like. So if you're not going to be able to try and work something out where the BIA is satisfied, our staff is satisfied, to prohibit and to prohibit the people that take advantage of our free parking, then I can't support anything like this. And it goes back to, the downtown is definitely changing, and previous council and this council has set the direction to make the downtown change for the better. But that also means that there's a tremendous amount of costs that are going into the downtown area. Downtown area that doesn't have the population that we have. The downtown area that doesn't have the businesses that we have or other areas in the city have. I know we all love our downtown. I've always, born and raised, love our downtown. But I can't continue to support something that doesn't provide us with the ability to at least get some kind of income from people that are taking advantage of our generosity to others. So if you're able to make, some kind of changes, then I'm open to that. If not, I won't be supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I do have Councilor Tour in 1 second, and just want a little bit of clarification, because it was my understanding in our meetings that we could resume paid parking at the current rate, and what we're seeing in front of us is when the increases would take place and the hour free parking would still exist. So to Councilor Pellecci's point in our last meeting, where he would like to see parking being paid for as of January 1st, 2024, at the current or pre-pandemic rate, that can still happen. What this report is discussing is when the increases would take place. Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct. That's correct, Councillor.
Okay,
and for clarification, the intent is that those, whenever council directed those to commence the reinitiation of the 2019 rates, staff would undertake that. But Kevin can maybe explain if that direction were given by council when that could commence.
Okay, so I think that is Councilor Pellecci's point, if I'm not mistaken, is to resume payment. What this does is gives us a timeline for increasing it to get on par where we need to be after construction, so on and so forth. But Kevin, if you can talk to that.
Yes, through the chair. January 1st, 2024 would be a bit early for us. We've been offline for several years now. We have about 1,000 internal pass holders, city staff, and hundreds of external pass holders who we need to communicate with. There's probably a number of city staff who have joined the city in the last few years who haven't even signed up for parking. That's one piece of it, and just making sure the equipment's getting back online. As some of you know, we have installed a new gateless system at City Hall that we haven't been able to test under normal circumstances. We are now ready to move forward with other garages like Market Square and West Tower. So there's a lot of work to do to actually successfully get these systems back online to ensure that our customers have a good experience when we do return to paid parking. So we would ask for a little bit more time than a month and a half at this point.
Right, so understanding that, I believe Councilor Pellecci in the last meeting had asked if that direction needed to be given by us, or if staff could take it back and implement it as of January 1st. I'm sure that Councilor Pellecci would be happy to put a motion forward to, based on whatever your timeline is, to get that rolling. So how much time do you think you need?
Through the chair, I would say at least until the second quarter of 2024 to get things going, although I would like to also touch base with staff after this meeting to get a better idea on those timelines.
Push that to council next meeting, but I'm not getting second quarter.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Councillor Tour, and then we'll try to wrap it up. Councillor Tour.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just hearing the two delegations that came as well to speak about this, one from the Downtown Brampton BIA, I do feel sympathetic towards them in terms of all the construction work, everything else going on right now. I know free parking is not an incentive for people to come to downtown, but paid parking would deter them from the already existing conditions in our downtown. So I'm happy to see the amendment that's on screen. That is, sort of in that direction to address that as an issue. More importantly, the points that the other delegation that Sylvia made about parking, especially like when I think about my area in wards 9 and 10, we talked about street parking. There's been a lot of different views from residents as well, different ideas, and she's brought up really good points up here today as well. So all I would ask is that that we get some more time to think about this before we go ahead in any direction, because I don't want to go in one direction and then switch another direction later. So I'd rather deal with this at council next week, if that's okay with my colleagues on council, if we can refer this to next week at council.
Okay, so I guess that's a referral on this till next week as amended.
So through you, Mr. Chair, it would be a referral of the staff report and the proposed motion from Councillor Santos to council next week, yes.
And is there and if you could come back with answers to Councillor Paleshi's on timeline for implementation of starting back up with the existing costs that are in place. So we have that moved by Councillor Tour. All those in favor? The motion carries. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to government relation matters. 7.1. Andres from the CEO's office is here with a presentation for committee on government relation matters. Welcome.
Good morning. Can go to the next slide, please. Good morning again. I'll begin today's presentation with an overview of regional matters and move on to updates on the provincial and federal side. The Region of Peel is beginning its 2024 proposed budget deliberations, with day one taking place this coming Thursday. Next slide, please. We're providing an outline of the budget deliberations process, including department by department discussion the following week. Then on November 30th, we will see a discussion of conservation authorities and presentation of the proposed budget. December 7th is set aside for additional deliberations as required. Next slide, please. Tomorrow, we will see Peel staff provide a corporate overview of the proposed 2024 budget. The 5.9 budget includes an average property tax increase of 4.5%, as well as utility rate increase of 6.8%. That translates to property tax increase for an average Brampton resident equaling to $265. Given the sheer volume of information, staff have drafted a briefing note for members of council that provides initial assessment and comments. That is stage one of the ongoing support that staff will be offering council members moving forward and as the region progresses through the deliberations process. That note will be circulated to members of council shortly. Next slide, please. Moving on to provincial updates. Last week, the provinces announced removal of the full 8% provincial portion of HST on qualifying new purpose-built rental housing. That includes apartment buildings, student housing, senior residences, among others. Qualifying projects will begin construction between September 14, 2023 and December 31st of 2030, with completion by December 31st, 2035. Next slide, please. Also, last week, the province has tabled the 2023 Fall Economic Statement. Staff have circulated a detailed briefing note following the tabling of the document. I only wanted to highlight two components of that announcement. One was the $200 million new Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. Eligible municipalities will be able to nominate housing enabling water and wastewater projects through the fund in early 2024. Next, we wanted to also bring to your attention the new Ontario Infrastructure Bank, which was announced with initial provincial funding of $3 billion. Projects will be focused on long-term care homes, affordable housing, infrastructure, and other critical infrastructure in the municipal, community, energy, and transportation sectors. Next slide, please. Province has also announced an intention to ban the requirements of Canadian work experience for jobs postings. Legislation will be introduced that would make it easier for new immigrants to obtain jobs that they have been trained for outside of Canada. The new requirements would come into effect in December 2023. Next slide, please. Moving on to federal updates. The federal government has announced additional investment of $5 million to help Canadian communities at risk of hate-motivated crimes. The funding will be flown through Security Infrastructure Program, and projects must be completed by March 31st, 2024. Funding will be available for such entities as community centers, office spaces, daycares, and others that are at risk of hate-motivated crimes. Next slide, please. The federal government has also announced a date for the 2023 Fall Economic Statement, which will take place on November 21st. It is expected that the document will focus on jobs, housing, and affordability issues. Staff will be following the announcement of the statement and will provide a briefing note with key observations and comments. Next slide, please. Moving to a joint announcement by federal government and FCM, we have seen $6.2 million being announced for green projects that help achieve net zero targets. Out of that pool of money, Region of Peel is receiving $525,000 that will be split among three studies that will receive $175,000 each. That includes a new Peel Regional Police facility that will be located in Brampton. Next slide, please. The Ontario Big City Mayors issued a statement following provincial Fall Economic Statement. The mayors have expressed their support for the newly announced Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund, as well as the Ontario Infrastructure Bank. The mayors also reiterated their drive to continue advocacy for municipalities to be made whole, following to account for impacts from Bill 23. Next slide, please. The Canada's premiers have met for the Council of Federation meeting last week. Following the meeting, premiers issued a statement essentially saying that they're looking at legislation similar to legislation already in place in Quebec that would require provincial authorization before municipalities or public agencies enter into any agreements with federal government, particularly in context of federal investments in strategic infrastructure. Premiers have also expressed the critical role provinces and territories play in addressing the housing crisis. This is particularly important from municipalities such as Brampton, where funding that Brampton has received, for example, recently from federal government through the Housing Accelerator Fund would be affected. The FCM has responded to the statement by calling on all levels of government to collaborate and work together. Next slide, please. And the last slide we wanted to, through which we wanted to flag for you developments at the federal Canadian municipalities, speaks to the FCM's advocacy days and the board of directors meeting. that will take place in Ottawa, November 21st to 24. This annual exercise enables FCM to directly engage with federal government on key issues related to the municipal sector. Key topics will include municipal growth framework, housing, infrastructure, climate, as well as public safety. And this concludes today's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Andres. I don't see any questions, so thanks so much for your presentation. I have a motion moved by Councillor Power to receive the presentation. All those in favor? Motion carries. That brings us to 8.2.2, which was, where is it here? It's the breastfeeding one, right? I can't find it here. Yeah, there it is. 8.2.2, breastfeeding spaces and facilities, and that was held by Councillor Tour.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just reading the report that we got back, it sort of boggles me because it's coming back to us with what we had given city staff as direction at whenever we first brought this, when I brought this forward earlier in the summer, and I've seen the recommendations. Just trying to pull that up right now, actually, but I've seen the recommendations that it is supposed staff is requesting to report back to council in Q2 2024. I kind of feel like we're taking too long to get this moving. I was hoping that this report that's coming back to us today was going to be the report with the different options and with some numbers behind it and a work plan behind it. So my intention for holding this is to see if we can do this sooner than later. I don't want to wait till Q2 2024. If staff could report back in the first quarter next year, with what the budgetary implications will be, what the work plan is going to look like with the options and potential different sites. We don't have to do this day one with all the sites. I think it says it in the report. It's going to take a few years for us to implement this across the city, but to come up with that plan sooner than later. That's my request of staff.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We do recognize that it took us a while to bring this report to council, but we do have a plan, and we can certainly try for Q1 2024. In the interim, we can basically use the pilot project for the pods. We can install a nursing pod at one of the recreation centers as a pilot project to see how that turns out. We're also incorporating the breastfeeding spaces in our new design. So all the new projects that are coming down the pipe, we're going to ensure that it includes the breastfeeding spaces, but we can definitely aim for Q1 2024 to bring forward a more comprehensive plan.
So if you had to do a pilot with like the pod structure to start with to see how it works out, how soon can you implement that?
We can fairly move quickly on that one. Probably in Q1 we can make it happen.
Okay, I'd include that then as an amendment here. But also a question that in the original motion that we passed in the summer, I know Councillor Pellecci had added this in, asking staff to speak with a certain group to get their input or get their feedback. We don't see any of that in this report.
To the chair, I can look into that further.
If Councillor Pellecci wants to speak to that, I'll get off the board.
So I have a few, I do have a few speakers, and Councillor Pellecci is one of them, but Councillor Santos is first. So if you're done, Councillor Tour, I'll move on.
Thank you.
Come back to you.
Thank you.
Councillor Santos?
Thanks so much, and through you, Mr. Chair, both Councillor Brar and I had met actually in our community services update meeting just indirectly talking about this particular topic, and I have a couple of points just to share with you, with staff directly who will be implementing this. The first one is to consider, so I know that when we were talking about the pods, we were using the Brampton Economic Development pods as an example, and I know Councillor Tour knows what I'm referring to. The challenge with those pods is that they're see-through and they're glass. and they're also probably very expensive. That being said, when you walk on in the West Tower, they have pods. They have working pods that are actually covered. They're a lower level, but if you have a pod that is at a higher level and it's still covered, those pods actually, I think, and Councillor Barr and I agreed, might be a little bit more appropriate. You're not confined in a space and you're in a safe, separate location. The only difference is you need to have the wall a little bit higher than what they have on the West Tower. And I'm sure staff know exactly what I'm referring to when I'm referring to those little workstation quiet space pods in the West Tower. Those spaces would actually be very suitable if there is an option to utilize that instead of like the back center with the glass and completely confined in a small space. The next point that I'll bring up is that at the community services update meeting that Vice Chair and I had yesterday, we did bring up the consultation with the organization, I think it's Leche Canada, La Leche Canada, to make sure that they are consulted with when the implementation plan comes forward, including our suggestion of that pod. And so to the staff's point and to Councillor Tour's point, if we are to engage in La Leche in this whole entire implementation process, we just need to make sure that we could still meet that target of Q1 of 2024. And on a final note, on behalf of myself and probably Councillor Barr as well, we want to say thank you to our male allies for thinking about providing safe spaces for breastfeeding, but also on another note, making sure that when we implement this program, that there's enough signage in the area that in general says that this is a safe space for breastfeeding anywhere, not just in the pods. Again, we don't want to create a stigma that the only place that you are allowed to breastfeed or nurse your child is in a pod or in a room. That is not what we want to do. So we need to make sure that signage exists and that culture still exists to support women and their children who choose not to go into a pod.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Santos. La Leche League Canada was the organization that I had asked previously for staff to reach out to have a conversation with. So I come from a lot of strong, powerful women in my life. My mom, my sister, my aunts are all women that went through and fought for an opportunity to be able to breastfeed wherever they wanted, and not to feel shamed about doing it. I am always supportive of providing opportunity for anyone, especially in the city of Brampton. But like Councillor Santos had said, I don't know how, and I don't want women to now feel like they have to go into these rooms or pods. I don't want for women to be breastfeeding in public when there is a pod or a room and some male chauvinistic pig comes and says those are pods or those are rooms for you to do that kind of stuff in. I don't want to set us backwards. And I don't know how we ensure that that doesn't happen with this. I have faith in staff that will provide us with the ability for us to do that. But going back on Councillor Tour's comments, I know we've been waiting for this for a little while, and for not even to have any kind of cost analysis of what it's going to mean for us, or that particular conversation that could have been had with the La Leche League, and with a roadmap on how we ensure women feel like they can either breastfeed in public or breastfeed in closed without feeling any kind of shame or anything like that. So, to Councillor Tour's point, I'd like to see something back. I'm looking at this the staff report now. It doesn't give me much information, so I'd like to see that come back sooner rather than later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I'll just make a few comments on this. I want to thank my colleagues, working together to make sure that we're covering everything. And when I look at this, I think it's going to come down to the signage and the verbiage that we put on them. And for me, it could be, something as simple as an optional breastfeeding pod, right? That way, take away the mandatory need for it. But I'll leave that in the capable hands of our staff. And I'm not sure, I do have the motion here, but I'm not sure if Councillor Tour, if you wanted to speak any further, or I'm good just to move forward with how it is, which currently is, it would be to approve the report with the amendments to number 2 to come back in Q1 of 2024 instead of Q2, and number 3, that staff undertake a pilot project as quickly as possible. Are you good with that, Councillor Tour?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, could you please repeat that, because the council feed paused for about half a minute.
Okay, no problem. So we would have the approval of the report with the amendments, and those amendments being to number 2, that the report come back in Q1 of 2024 instead of Q2. And number 3 was added, that staff undertake a pilot project to to work as quickly as possible to get that done.
Yes, happy to move that.
Great. So we have that motion moved by Councillor Tour. All those in favor? The motion carries. That brings us to our next item, which is 8.2.2, a staff report to begin procurement for 2024 road resurfacing project, and that was held by Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering when we're planning on starting these road resurfacing projects. I looked at the appendix and I didn't see any dates to it. I assume there hasn't been dates that have been set yet, is why I asked the question.
Through clerk, they would be for next year's program, next summer's program. It would start in the spring once the melt is done. Our request for proposals would be put out over the winter to get the contractors on board to be able to execute in the summertime.
Okay, perfect. That's what I like to hear. Construction in the summer, not so much now, where a lot of the construction that's happening now is, and I know staff done a great job in trying to work with the contractors to kind of push other, road resurfacing projects off for a little bit. Our east and west corridors seem to be under construction. Then there's a lot of north and south, particular on Hurontario, especially in the downtown. But I just want us to, when we're looking at resurfacing, not so much those, I always get the confusion, like the courts and the crescents, not so much those ones, the ones that are being used for, for the transportation, to make sure that there's a coordinated effort to get in and out as fast as possible. And for if we're doing, let's say if we're doing a Williams Parkway, we're not doing Sandalwood at the same time, because people are going to, migrate to there, and then they're going to start finding other routes to get through. And that goes back to, we don't want cut through traffic, because those are the routes that our kids are on, our kids are walking to school on. So we want to be extremely smart about this and make sure that, what's the effect after, once we've determined that one of that main routes is going to be done. So if I can just give the thumbs up to staff, say thank you, please work on that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And just to piggyback off you there, Councillor Paleshi, I just want to confirm, and I know I've had the conversations, but I'm going to now publicly state it. I know in 2023 we were resurfacing roads that we also were trying to implement safety measures on with speed cushions. And I just want to make sure that when we go out to the tenders, that it's now been included that if those streets are going to require speed cushions, that they're being done at the same time and they're part of that tender. Can I get confirmation here today that that is going to be in the tender process for the resurfacing for the 2024 projects?
To you, Chair, yes, you have confirmation. That's exactly the process moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Unless council makes a change after current.
Not to have the speed bumps there? Okay, thank you. So we have a motion. Anything else, Councilor? You good? So we have a motion moved by Councilor Paleshi to receive the report. Is it a report? Oh, approve the report. All those in favor? Motion carries. The correspondence was in consent. That brings us to councilor question period. Are there any councilors that have any questions on anything that was on the agenda? Seeing none, that brings us to public question period.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no questions submitted online. I don't know if there is anybody present to speak to the Public Works section of the agenda in regards to recommendations made by the committee.
Sylvia Robert.
Hello. So my name is Sylvia, and one of the questions I wanted to know, does council understand that how much the parking garages cost to subsidize? For example, the John Street parking garage costs $300 per spot per month to subsidize, which means we are spending millions and millions of dollars per year currently subsidizing the parking. And I don't have an issue paying with parking when I come downtown. So is council and staff fully cognizant of just how much money is being spent on this? Because when I look at the budget, it's very difficult. I can't find it broken out in the budgets on how much we're spending on subsidizing all this parking between the capital costs and operating costs.
What is your exact question and who are you directing it to?
Okay. Where can I find information on how much we are subsidizing parking? Because it showed the cost to repair the parking garages, but the actual costs on how much money we're spending on debt and like the capitalized costs at how much it effectively costs per month.
Who on staff can answer that?
They can reach back to me online if they want to.
Okay, we'll get that information and send it out to you. Thanks. Nash isn't here. Okay, so that's it. I will now pass the chair over to Councillor Santos, the chair of the Community Service section.
Thank you so much, Councillor Keenan. The next item in community services is 9.1.1 in relation to the discussion item added to by myself, 9.3.1, regarding the City of Brampton's taking action to end violence against women. Amanda, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Chair Santos. Good morning to Mayor Brown, members of council, CLT staff, and guests. My name is Amanda Agnihotri, and I am a supervisor on the Community Safety and Wellbeing team. Today, I am happy to be here to highlight for you the many ways in which the City of Brampton has taken action to end violence against women in our community. Next slide, please. The City of Brampton has shown commitment, leadership, and courage being proactive in this space for many years. The Community Safety and Wellbeing Office has charted over 65 individual actions that serve to combat violence against women since 2019, in particular through both upstream and downstream approaches, with actions focused on awareness, empowerment, and advocacy. The next couple of points will provide highlights of this work. In 2019, Brampton City Council passed a motion for city staff to continue working with and supporting existing programs at the Region of Peel who serve those affected by domestic violence and to support public awareness and advocacy regarding violence against women.
Each year since 2020, this has included staff supporting and participating in initiatives at the Region of Peel Family Violence Action Table, and supporting and participating in the annual Peel Violence Against Women Awareness Campaign, which I will speak to in a later slide. Next slide, please. In addition to participation in those areas since 2020, this year, 2023, has marked several milestones for this work. As you're all aware, earlier this year, Brampton City Council unanimously voted to declare gender-based violence an epidemic in Brampton, advocating for increased funding and support for organizations and agencies that provide essential resources, vital support, and safe spaces for individuals seeking to escape violent relationships. This year also saw the development of Brampton's Employee Women Empowerment Network, a resource group focused on empowering women into leadership, providing mentorship and overall support in navigating the workplace to mitigate systemic barriers that may exist. Further, we have continued our advocacy efforts for increased supports for gender-based violence. Next slide, please. Upstream highlights to look out for include dedicated breastfeeding spaces and dedicated parking spaces for parents at City of Brampton facilities, the Women's Advisory Committee and Gender-Based Analysis Plus training for all people leaders rather than specific to senior leaders and council as noted on the slide, and continued advocacy efforts in this space, most newly related to financial supports for transitional housing in Brampton. I will note that all the photos from this slide and the previous slides are from City of Brampton events and initiatives related to ending violence against women, including some as recent as last week, that being the self-defense workshop for the Women Empowerment Network, which I believe was on the previous slide. Next slide, please. We are excited to share more details on the annual Peel Violence Against Women campaign, also known as the Break the Silence campaign. This campaign has run annually since 2020 and was developed with collaboration between the Region of Peel and a growing list of community partners, including the City of Brampton. The campaign targets 3 key audiences, those being survivors, bystanders, and the general public. All campaign flyers have traditionally been translated into Peel's top 5 languages, and this year's campaign launches next week on Friday, November 24th, ahead of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and the start of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I would like to note that the campaign materials you see on the screen are from the 2022 campaign. The 2023 campaign materials will become available next week. Next slide, please. I will highlight for you a recent statistic provided by Peel Regional Police, or PRP. In 2022, PRP reported almost 16,000 family and intimate partner violence disputes. On average, that is more than 43 disputes every day. And I'll emphasize that that is just what gets reported. Most incidents are believed not to be reported. Data trends from Police 211, the Assaulted Women's Helpline, and Embrave, all agencies who are part of the campaign, show general increases in reported incidents following the period of time that the Break the Silence campaign is released each year, and the slides on the screen highlight the trends from 2022. This tells us at a base level that the campaign materials have been effective in encouraging reporting. Next slide, please. I will close by drawing attention to a few key upcoming dates. There will be a community flag raising in Ken Willans Square next week on November 22nd to mark Women Abuse Prevention Month. We would love to have everyone there. November 24th marks the launch of the annual Peel Violence Against Women campaign, and we do encourage members of council and others in the chamber today to reshare campaign materials across your social channels, and you can find these by following along with the hashtag Break the Silence. We'll also be sharing materials across Brampton places of worship, Brampton libraries, and various businesses in Brampton, including Brampton movie theaters. And as previously mentioned, November 25th marks the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and the start of the 16 days of activism. That is all I have for you today. I hope that this served as a holistic overview of the many actions that the City of Brampton has taken to end violence against women. I'm happy to address any questions or comments that you may have.
Thank you so much for that update. And I added this discussion item well in advance of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, because both Councillor Brar and myself wanted to really share and highlight the work that we as a city and as a community have done, particularly over the past 5 years on this matter. And I was waiting for people to put their names on the board, and no one did, but I'm happy you have. So Councillor Power and Mayor Brown, go ahead.
I just switched seats. First of all, I want to thank Councillor Brar and Councillor Santos for being so outspoken and articulate and eloquent about the need to do more, both at the region and here at this table. You've been tremendous ambassadors for the city of Brampton, and sitting on the Police Services Board, I find it horrifying every year to look at the call volumes for domestic violence, intimate partner violence. Continuously over 10,000 calls a year. These are our neighborhoods that are terrorized by the cancer of intimate partner violence. I know we've got a flag raising coming up at City Hall. I believe it's on a day that Councillor Santos is representing us at FCM. Given the fact that Councillor Brar and Councillor Santos have taken such a leadership role in the region appeal, and frankly challenge other municipalities. The work that you have done has been matched by other cities. I hope we can find a way just to make sure that both your schedules are incorporated into the flag raising we have here, and that it's not during right now I think it's scheduled for while council is sitting, and so just maybe a feedback to the recognition of this, that we could incorporate your both of you into this timetable.
Thank you, Mayor Brown, for that suggestion. I'd be happy to accommodate accordingly and chat with staff after about that. Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the Community Safety Wellbeing team for all of the work that you're doing, the ongoing work that that is happening in the awareness and everything. I really want to thank Councillor Santos, Councillor Corbrar for consistently bringing this matter to the attention of anybody and everybody that they can, because we know that's what you have to do, and want to continue. And I think I speak on behalf of the rest of the my male colleagues that we're here, whatever you need, whenever you need it. We're here to support and do anything that we can to ensure that one day we live in a community that doesn't have any kind of violence against women. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Paleshi. Councillor Brar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you again to staff for all the work they've done. And I want to thank our council colleagues for always supporting us. We talked about breastfeeding. We're talking about spots for women, pregnant women, parking spots. And I think this is just an initiative that our male council colleagues are taking on, and we really appreciate that. So thank you again to everyone.
Asked for the chair to be heard. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to our Community Safety Wellbeing Office, and echo all the appreciation for the work that you have been doing. And to council colleagues, Councillor Paleshi, thank you so much for acknowledging that Councillor Brar and I will keep talking about this over and over again. Sometimes when I put my name on the board to talk about women's issues, I feel like it's white noise to people because we talk about it so often. And thank you, Councillor Paleshi, for shaking your head and saying, no, we are absolutely listening, and we are here for you and all the women and survivors who go through this every single day in subtle ways and not so subtle ways. Every single time the Break the Silence campaign, I'm going to flag for council members to please share it, and to city staff, please share that message. You could see the impact and the amount of support that women are now turning to once they see that the community is with them. So once that campaign launches, please share it often, to let the women in our community know who are silent that they don't have to be, and that they have support, and that there are ways to get out of their situations. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, though, is at the City of Brampton, we did pass a motion back in March of this past year. And one of the ways that the city, as well as colleagues around the table, can help is by taking gender-based analysis training. And in that motion, I know for sure we had asked council, senior staff, et cetera, to please participate and take that training. Just a question to staff, has that training now been implemented? Have senior levels of staff been taking the training? And can we please make sure that my council colleagues, including myself, also take the training? Because if there's one way that our allies can help in this movement, it's by more deeply understanding the barriers that women in particular face that are systemic within policy. So just a question to staff, has that training been implemented, and if and when it can be provided for council as well?
Through the chair, I believe the training is under the purview of the Equity Office. I'm not sure if there's anyone here who can speak to that.
Thank you very much for the question, through the chair. Yes, the training has started. It took us a while to develop the training. We sent out an email on October 23rd. And we don't just send it to people and ask them, do we actually assign the training as required training? So it's gone to 650 staff. And it will be, that training has to be completed by the staff by the end of this year. And shortly there will be a communication going out to councillors, offering the same training for them. And I think the motion talked about having that all done by councillors as well by March 8th, 2024.
By next year, International Women's Day. And so while folks may think that, and this is a message to all staff who are maybe watching and council colleagues as well, while folks may think that, oh, it's just training, it's not. It's you're doing your part in understanding the issues and the challenges within policy that are systemic at all levels of government, at any sort of organization, that are barriers for women and other equity-seeking groups every single day. And the reality is the reason why is because policies and the systems within government and institutional systems were predominantly developed by men. And so while folks think that it's just training, it's not. It's a way for you to do your part in addressing gender-based violence. It really is. And so I would ask that folks really take that seriously, and hopefully we will hit that 600 number plus 11 on council by the end of this year, which is actually ahead of schedule. Thank you very much, Vince, for that.
Thank you.
The other thing that I really wanted to bring up is something that happened on Sunday, which is a historic moment for the women's movement regarding gender-based violence. I turned on the news and the verdict of Peter Nygard was broadcasted on the news regarding his charges on sexual assault going back to the 1980s. And that hit very, very deeply many women across the country and certainly across the world because he was a predator. And what was even more incredible was what his son did, Kai Bickle. And so when I think of our male allies, and I think about, in our campaigns to break the silence, the agencies and the Region of Peel and City staff have always, we were always like, how do we get our men to help us break the silence? And Kai Bickle, what he did and what he said about his father on that day when the verdict came forward is a complete example of what it means for male allies to stand up to help us break the silence, and how powerful it is when it's not just women who are actually just talking about it, because sometimes we feel like it's just white noise to the rest of the world. But Kyle Bickle stood up, and I wanted to share some of the things that he did to break the silence in that moment. Bickle said on Sunday that he's thinking about all of those who care about justice and are open to the idea of stopping predators from abusing and targeting children, using drugs to abuse women, and using tactics like jurisdictional loopholes or threats of lawsuit to silence their victims. These are powerful people who were predators on vulnerable children and women, threatening them so that they couldn't speak up. It's not a good brand association to be the son of a monster. It's negatively impacted me all across the board. I lost everything. I walked away from an inheritance to do the right thing. For me, it was emotional, but again, I'd like to stress there are so many survivors out there who this is their day. It's not just about Peter Nygaard, it's about examining the system, the laws, and the rules to see where that problem was so that we can correct it for others in the future. That's where we'll actually get a big benefit from this tragic and terrible situation. And of note, this happened in Toronto, Canada. He made that speech in Toronto, Canada, and that moment has set a new tone for what happens to predators when they commit such heinous gender-based violence attacks. And so to our male colleagues, not just at this table, but around the whole city, I do hope that you take Kai Bickle's lead and example in small or big ways, whether that's conversations at the bar, or conversations in the locker room, or conversations in the boardroom, conversations at home. Please take Kai Bickle's lead, because he has truly set an example of what a male ally is in this movement. And so to the Community Safety Wellbeing Office, thank you very much for this presentation and update. And happy to have Mayor Brown receive the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, all in favor? That carries. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other items on community services?
Through you, Chair Santos, no. We can go to 9.5, Councillor question.
Councillor question period. Any members of council have, or committee, any questions? Nope. Public question period. Any questions from the public? Thank you. Legislative services. We have 10.2.1 was in consent. 10.2.2 was held by Councillor Paleshi. Over to you. Towing storage.
Yes.
Over to you.
So hearing what, I guess some of the changes in legislation that the province is, yet again, shoving down our throats, taking our ability away to now license the tow truck industry poses a problem for us. I don't know if there was a contract within the licensing agreement that said that, tow trucks were responsible for the debris after an accident, but they always cleaned up after they almost always cleaned up after the accident. I often saw them out with brooms and shovels picking up glass and debris. And so if they don't now have to do that any longer because they're no longer really affiliated with us in any way, what does that mean for us? What does it mean for the taxpayers? Do we now have to send people out to every single accident to clean up debris? The other thing is we've had tow trucks, and we've caught one particular tow truck that crosses a median at Steeles and Mavis Road area, is parked on the south side. It's a great location to turn right and get to wherever that person needs to go if there's anything east. But to go west, they need to cross a median, which this individual has been witnessed many times crossing that median. So that person was caught. We publicly shamed that person, the company, but we also made sure that they paid for any damage that they did to the median. We've also witnessed tow trucks that were parked on Sandalwood Road on the grass median, and literally leaving ruts as they drove off of the road onto to the grass part and then back off. Our ability to send those companies bills for repairs is now being taken out of our hands by the province. So I'd like to refer this back to staff to come up with some kinds of solutions as to one, I need to know what the revenue loss is to the city of Brampton that now the taxpayers of Brampton now have to pay for. And two, who do we start sending those bills to? Do we send them directly to the province? Can we send them directly to the MPP of that ward? And three, we need to tell all of the residents now, because we all get emails about, 10 tow trucks going to a collision of 2 vehicles and holding up all kinds of traffic. We get those emails. We get that frustration from residents. Do we now, can we provide them, with the MPP's contact information and start asking them to, we need some kind of campaign to tell the city of Brampton that the province is taking this away. There's X amount of dollars that has to now go back on the tax bill because the province is taking this away. And any complaints that that you have need to go to your MPPs. So I know that's a whole lot of questions wrapped into a lot of complaining about what the province is yet again doing to us, but if we can ask staff to capture that and bring that back next week.
Okay. So some questions from Councillor Paleshi. I'm just looking to our front bench here. Just, are the questions clear in order to come back with something to respond to Councillor Paleshi for next week?
Samir?
Through the chair, could you repeat that question?
Do you have enough details from Councillor Paleshi in this discussion in order to come back to council next week with some responses to his concerns related to provincial jurisdiction, communication, who we send complaints to, who's going to pay for what?
Through the chair, yes, we can take all those questions back and come back next week with some more information for you.
And then work with comms to see what the strategy is to let all the residents know that the province is at it again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Welcome.
And Councillor Paleshi, so is that, yes, it's a referral back to staff for further investigation to come back to council next week. All those in favor, moved by Councillor Paleshi? That passes, thank you. The next item on the agenda, I believe, is there another one, Mr. Clerk? Okay. So councillor question period, do any members of committee have any questions regarding this section? Seeing none. Public question period, do any members of the public have any questions? Anyone online, Mr. Clerk? Thank you. The next area is economic development. There's nothing here on the agenda. Councillor Tour, if you allow me to proceed. Any members of committee have any questions regarding economic development? Seeing none. Public question period, and members of the public have questions regarding economic development? Seeing none. The next section is corporate services. I will now hand it over to Councillor Brar to continue the agenda for corporate services.
Thank you so much. Our next item is 12.2.1, which was referred to our next council meeting on November 22nd. Our next item is 12.2.2, a staff report regarding the status of the historic Bovaird House management agreement, which was held by Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So I read the report and had some questions that I had spoken to with staff as well early this morning. And so just to give folks a heads up, I will be referring this back to staff for an amended MOU, I guess, or a more tightened up MOU in Q1 of 2024. But just for the public record, I do have a few questions regarding the memorandum of understanding. So I guess one of the first ones that Steve and I had spoken about is their operating program or their operating plan. Originally in the report it refers to September the 30th as an annual report. Have they submitted that operating plan or program of events to the city yet?
Yep, through the chair, through to you, Councillor Santos. A preliminary draft operating plan has been socialized with staff. The Friends of the Bovaird House, in discussions with staff, are waiting for sort of the finalization of the MOU to complete that. But certainly, if it's the direction of council to defer this to Q1 of next year, I would offer that that plan be part and parcel of the new MOU that come back to council.
That would be great. And so if we can see that plan for when it comes back to council in Q1 2024, that would be appreciated. And I would also ask that until the plan or operating or programs are approved at that meeting in Q1 of 2024, that no events take place at the location.
Through the chair, through to you, Councillor Santos, the current MOU that's attached to the report does have a protocol, if you will, that speaks to events that need to be I's dotted and T's crossed by city staff prior to that, but certainly we can take that direction from council to restrict any events from today through to the next report back to council on this matter.
Okay. And when that program or list of events comes back to council, can we also make sure that it's a requirement that council members and city representatives are invited to the events that they have in their program?
Yeah, through the chair, through to you, Councillor Santos. Earlier today, subsequent to our conversation, I did speak to staff who, Charlton actually, who's taking a good role in being sort of the liaison between the city and the Friends of the Bovaird House, and understand that the group would appreciate if members of council do attend the events. I think there's probably an opportunity for enhanced communication for us to reach out to them and them to reach out to us about when events may be occurring, so that the mayor and members of council are apprised.
Great. And overall, I think that the MOU and this particular report is really a step in the right direction. This agreement was not in place essentially for the past 20 years and was supposed to be renewed year after year, so they were kind of just doing their own thing. And so I'm very happy to see that there's far more accountability measures in place so that we don't run into another situation like the barn situation that we had to deal with and shut down because it was excessive in spending. And I know that the referral to council regarding the audit, Councillor Vicente will have some other questions related to what happened in those years when there was not as much accountability with respect to an MOU or terms of agreement with the Friends of Bovaird House. One of the things in the actual report and in the agreement includes indemnity. And I guess one of my concerns, and if we can make sure we tighten the language in the MOU coming back in Q1 2024, is in the previous term of council, some members of the board were, I saw, putting somewhat public defamatory remarks on the Friends of Bovaird House Facebook page, as well as other social media that I had seen at the time. What are the expectations in terms of code of conduct when the city of Brampton partners with any type of organization?
Yeah, through the chair, through to Councillor Santos, certainly the MOU could probably benefit for some tightening of words around sort of expectations of code of conduct. However, based on our conversation earlier today, certainly my expectation that anybody using a city facility, a city asset, follows the code of conduct and the sort of the rules of engagement per the city. An example that comes to mind is Cass Campbell. I often frequent there with my kids, and there is a code of conduct sort of on the wall there that sort of reminds all of the folks coming into that facility of what the expectations are and behaviors that when you're in a city facility. So certainly that's something we can continue to enshrine with the Friends of the Bovaird House.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. And then the other thing that I'd like to have considered, and Mr. Clerk had asked me, do you have a motion coming up on the discussion on women, ending violence against women, but I'm gonna add it specifically here and in the future consider it for other boards and committees. I think I would like to also in this MOU ask the board to take gender-based analysis training and to be part of that movement of better understanding some of the systemic and policy barriers related to gender-based analysis, because it includes not just women, but also diversity and discrimination related to other communities, et cetera. So can we also make sure that the board members take gender-based plus training as well? And then the final note that I will add here is in regards to minutes of meeting. In the report and in the agreement, it talks about minutes of meeting for just the AGM. And in the spirit of better transparency, especially given our previous experience with the Pendergast House and the barn, it's been very difficult to understand who made decisions and what motions were passed and who approved what. And so I would ask that for transparency's sake, that the board also submit monthly minutes of meeting of their boards and any resolutions and decisions that are passed at their board meetings. Similar to the Senior Advisory Council that we have, they give us minutes of meeting as well. So if we can include that.
Through the chair, if I may just comment on that. After our discussion this morning, Councillor Santos, and further discussion with staff, it's my understanding that my staff do attend their meetings and take notes, which are used to brief me, but certainly we can bake into the MOU more formalized protocol for that.
More formalized, and I don't want our staff person necessarily to be the note taker. Like, you're there to attend. They should have their own board structure to actually have a secretary to take those notes, as any sort of organization. That's not the city's responsibility, but they definitely should be submitting minutes of meeting for sure. Okay, that's it. Those are all my questions. And so a referral to staff to incorporate some of the feedback that I've provided and to report back with a revised MOU in Q1 of 2024. This will also help us maybe have some clarification on what's happening with the dissolution of Peel and possibly PAMA. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. We have Councillor Power on the board. Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Brar. Just to say thank you, Councillor Santos, for putting this together. Obviously, last term of council, I thought the lack of professional requirements brought the city into disrepute when it was on the front page of national media talking about the waste of taxpayer dollars and what was an egregious, flagrant conflict of interest for a councillor who's no longer at this table. They embarrassed the city of Brampton. This had to be cleaned up. This can't happen again. I had no explanation when I was asked about this at community events. This debacle embarrassed the city of Brampton. It can never happen again. And thank you, Councillor Santos and others who have made sure that this is cleaned up and this error will not happen ever again.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. We have a motion moved by Councillor Santos that the report be referred back to staff to provide for the development of enhanced memorandum of understanding and the report back to council with the revised MOU by the first quarter of 2024, that no event take place at the Bovaird House until such time as the report is considered, that members of the Bovaird House Board of Directors be required to take gender-based policy training provided by the city, and that the Bovaird House Board of Directors be required to submit board meeting minutes to the Committee of Council for information. All in favor? That carries. Our next item is 20.3.1, a discussion item at the request of Councillor Palashi, I'm going to have to help with this. Commemorative naming of Father Roman. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Father Roman Galadza was an unbelievable human being, a staple in the community, he was larger than life. He was always happy and doing great things in the city. He and my father, I recall, whenever they would get together, two big guys that would give each other a hug was a comedy routine in its own, but they would always make jokes about it as well. I think the love that he had for the city of Brampton, for the residents, and his congregation was was massive on such a massive scale. And I really want us to be able to, you know, keep his name alive in the city, and hopefully potentially have some kind of naming in the city somewhere. I know that, you know, in the northwest corner, the development isn't there yet, but maybe there's another opportunity in kind of that somewhat area that we could look at. So what I would like is to request that staff use Father Roman Galadza's full name in some kind of naming space in the city of Brampton, and for a report to come back.
Thank you, Councillor Pleshy.
Thank you,
Mayor
Madam Chair.
Brown?
I know we don't require seconders in committee, but I'd be happy to second that. Thank you, Councillor Paleski, for this thoughtful gesture. He was a lion for the Ukrainian community in our city, and had such a passion for Brampton. I had the chance to go to the Celebration of Life with Councillor Paleski and Councillor Brar, and it was heartbreaking because he meant so much to our city, to his wife, Irene, his daughter, Larissa. They gave someone to our city who was a gift for the city. You know, recently when we had many Ukrainian refugees come to Brampton, it may not have been known, but this was the family that was putting hundreds of hours into making sure they were okay. They have Father Roman was blunt, he was honest, he was direct, he cared about our city, and I think this is a beautiful symbol of our city's appreciation for someone that has such a long history in Brampton. I would note his daughter is the Canadian ambassador to Ukraine, and that's an incredible accomplishment. I remember speaking to Roman and Irene saying, you've done a tremendous job raising your daughter, because for the Canadian government to assign your daughter to what is one of the most difficult diplomatic posts in the world shows incredible confidence in her skill and aptitude, and to know that lineage comes from Brampton is extraordinary. So beautiful gesture today, support it, absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. We have a motion moved by Councillor Paleski, seconded by Mayor Brown, that staff be requested to report on potential opportunities for the inclusion of Father Roman Galadza in the commemorative naming within Brampton. Motion, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Our next item is 12.3.2. Discussion of an item at the request of Mayor Brown, Hamas and Israel war.
Maybe I could just speak to this briefly, Councillor Brar, and Councillor Torr and yourself mentioned how heart-wrenching it was with what you've seen online and television screens. I know you've worked on a motion that is very similar to the wording used in Toronto to express their anguish. And you know, what happened on October 7th was horrifying. And you know, the Hamas terrorist attack on innocent civilians was barbaric, and Hamas needs to be wiped off the map for the evil that they are. Looking at the civilian casualties and toll in both Gaza and in Israel on that attack was horrifying, and it reverberates here. Brampton feels the world. We're a mosaic of the world, and when there is a loss of life anywhere in the world, there tends to be a connection to our city. And I have heard from residents who talk about loved ones who have been impacted by this. And the scale of the devastation right now is, words don't do it justice. It's horrifying. And I have to say, what I like about this motion, and I'm going to suggest that maybe we amend it to say all the council second. What I like about this motion is it calls out anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, terrorism and hate in all its forms. But that's who we are in Brampton. You know, in Brampton, we embrace that mantra that, you know, we uplift communities and stand against hate. And when any part of our community is grieving, we grieve with them. And I think that is who we are in our city. And so I think the wording on this is appropriate, and I fully support the motion put forward by Councillor Brar and Tor.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. We really have brought this motion forward because it's our duty to listen to the concerns of our communities. And right now, our Brampton community and our global community is in distress. They are civilians, men, women, and children that have lost their lives, and many that are living in a state of constant fear. The events unfolding across the world have far-reaching effects. We need to be the voice of our residents and acknowledge that they're all affected by what is going on. It is affecting our day-to-day and our mental health. Our empathy and our compassion are our strengths. But we must be bolstered by strengthening the bonds of the community and supporting one another. We must condemn violence in all its forms and be steadfast in our commitment to reject hate and prejudice. And I know Councillor Tour had something to say too. Councillor Tour?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this forward. I'll be very brief. Everyone is always glued to their phones or their TV screens, and sometimes you feel helpless on what you can do to help. But I know personally, as an elected member from Wards 9 and 10, I've got so many emails, phone calls, people just reaching out to me in public when they see me, asking how we can support, how we can help. There's a lot of fundraising efforts going on. There's a lot of community groups that are coming together to help in whatever way we can as Canadians. So whatever we can do to support that, to say that, we're here with you, we hear you, I'm happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. We have a motion on the screen. We will let our council members read the motion on the screen. Thank you.
Or is this exact same wording as email? Oh, yeah. Other than the last words, okay. Good.
I believe we're just missing a couple of the lines.
Yeah, if we
Mayor
could
Brown?
If we could just,
We're just missing.
I think it's missing 2 or 3 of the paragraphs
That's correct.
of what was emailed. That's why that's why I paused. Can you take a 2-minute break just to make sure that we have this correct?
Yep. Yeah. We can recess for 5 minutes.
Through you, Chair Brar, I'd rather more than 5 minutes if we're going to confirm this is the right motion. There also is a second motion, I think, for the mayor that will be introduced.
10 minutes, Mr. Clerk, would 10
Certainly,
minutes be okay?
please. Thank you.
You want to break for lunch? Yeah, 1 o'clock.
Mr. Clerk, we can break for lunch for 1 o'clock.
If
and
that's the
then-
will of committee.
Perfect. We have a motion.
No, there's one more item after this through you, Chair Brar. In regards to closed session, it would be very quick for the workshop next week.
Perfect. We have a motion moved by Councillor Keenan to go into, for break.
So through you, Chair Brar, if we're going to break to go into closed and then reconvene after, we need to pass a motion to go into closed for a specific purpose, and we'll go to that motion now. There's only one item for closed, held by Councillor Paleshi, and it's the committee proceeding to closed session to discuss matters pertaining to the following: 15.1 only, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and negotiation matter, property acquisition matter.
So we have,
There's an added item?
There is not. There was two items. One was withdrawn at the beginning of the agenda, so there's only one item on the agenda.
Yeah, Councillor.
Yes, that's going to be the next item discussed in public, so that's a public resolution about a closed session item next
Perfect.
week.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We'll have a motion to go into close by Councillor Keenan. All in favor? That motion carries. Mr. Clerk, would 1 o'clock be okay?
If that's the will of committee, yes.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll be back at 1 o'clock in
In
close.
closed. Yeah.
Check 1 2.
Mr. Clerk, are we ready?
We have quorum, Chair Brar. We can proceed.
Perfect, thank you. In continuing interest of transparency and open government, I will report in public session any outcomes from today's closed session business. As a result of our closed session today, Mr. Clerk, can we report the following?
Through you, Chair Brar. So committee met in closed session for item 15.1, an open meeting exception under section 239, 2C and K of the Municipal Act, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and a negotiation matter regarding a property acquisition matter. That item was considered, information received, and procedural direction was given to refer this matter to City Council closed session next week, and that's the report.
Thank you. Our next item is 12.3.2, just continuing on to the discussion of Hamas and Israel. We did have a motion. Mr. Clerk, can we see that on the screen?
We'll put it back on the screen, and there were 3 paragraphs that were omitted, and they are at the end. The wording preceding that reflects what was previously shown. So starting at stories of people.
Members of council, you can read the motion on the screen. All in favor? Any opposed? That motion. All in favor? Mr. Mayor Brown, we're okay? Okay.
All council.
The mover
is Councillor
Brar.
and Councillor Tour, and then the rest of council is...
So moved by myself and Councillor Tour, and then seconded by all of council. Recorded vote.
We'll just wait for the mover and seconder to be identified. So recorded vote has been requested on the motion under 12.3.2. All those in the chamber in favor of the motion, please stand to be counted. Showing in favor is Councillor Santos, Mayor Brown, Councillor Paleshi, Councillor Keenan, Chair Brar, Deputy Mayor Singh, Councillor Power, Councillor Fortini. How do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Tour is not present. Councillor Medeiros, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. And Councillor Vicente is absent. So the motion carries unanimously, 9-0 with 2 absences.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, our next.
Oh, is there a second motion we can put on the screen? One of the beautiful things about Brampton is that we have organizations that step up for charity. And whenever there is adversity abroad, we have a history of stepping up fundraising. And we've got some local groups that have expressed an interest in fundraising. I just think the facility fee, if it is not already booked, be waived if there's a city location that's been requested that's come in this week.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. We have a motion moved by Mayor Brown. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have anything else in the corporate services section?
Through you, Chair Brar, there is 12.3.3, an added item at the request of Deputy Mayor Singh in regard to a closed session at the November 20th council workshop, and I can provide a very brief overview.
Thank you.
So members of committee, there is a council workshop scheduled for Monday the 20th at 4 o'clock before the 7 p.m. scheduled Planning and Development Committee. Part of that workshop will include open session business, but there is a component that will be closed session. And under the Municipal Act, council, and under the procedure bylaw as well, council can have a workshop in closed session, but there are some preconditions that have to be met. In particular, the Municipal Act says that there has to be a resolution passed in public, giving the fact that there is a closed session that will occur, the general nature of the subject matter, and that it's to be closed under section 239, 3.1 of the Act. So there is a motion that's prepared that's on the screen that requires a mover just to ensure compliance with the Municipal Act.
Thank you. We have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Singh. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. Mr. Clerk, anything else in our corporate services?
Madam Chair, just a point of order. This is Councilor Tour. I was disconnected from the meeting for the last vote that we just had on the item that we were discussing before we went into closed and on break.
Mr. Clerk, can we take that into consideration? How does that work?
So the cleanest way would be to essentially take another vote, which would amount to a reconsideration. So council can, or committee can reconsider or reopen the matter for the purpose of taking another vote. If Councillor Tour is now present, presuming all the other members who voted are still present.
Okay.
No, you can't just add people to a vote.
Okay, we can do that.
Yep. Or you could take another vote next week at council. There's a number of options.
We'll just do it now.
Okay. So a member on the
2/3.
prevailing side will have to move a reconsideration. Yep. So take the vote.
Okay.
That carries.
All in favor? That motion carries.
So the matter's been reopened, and now a request to take a vote again on the item under 12.3.2
We have
from the mayor.
We have a motion on the screen. All in favor, recorded vote.
Recorded vote's been requested. All in favor in chambers, please stand up. Showing in favor is Councillor Santos, Mayor Brown, Councillor Paleshi, Councillor Keenan, Chair Brar, Deputy Mayor Singh, Councillor Power. Councillor Tour, how do you vote?
In favor?
Thank you. Councillor Fortini, how do you vote?
In favor.
Councillor Medeiros, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. And Councillor Vicente is absent, so the motion carries 10-0, 10 with one absence.
Thank you. Our next item is 12.6, public question period. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public questions online?
Just bear with me a moment. Chair Brar, don't believe we do. And we do not.
Any other questions in the public? Seeing none, we'll now move on to our next section of the agenda. Our next item is 13.1, the preferred matters list. The list is published quarterly on the meeting agenda, and the copy is linked with each agenda to include a current listing of the matters referred to the city staff for further review and/or report back to council or committee. The list is a reset of the start of each term of council. Do any members have any questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you. Now we'll move on to the next part of the agenda. Now we can deal with item 14, our final public question period. There is a 15-minute limit for all questions and answers for this meeting. Mr. Clerk, do we have any questions submitted? Seeing none, now we'll move on to our next item. Adjournment. Our last item of business is item 16, adjournment. Committee is next scheduled to meet Wednesday, November 29, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. I have a motion moved by Councillor Power to adjourn today's meeting. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great